Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Triple P, TRIPPLE dot P, aka Pimp, Prophet, and Priest. And as you guys know, we are officially live, and just want to let you guys know that we have covered so far three. This is our official third live stream so far. I'm gonna give you guys a brief idea of what you guys have missed. And just for the record again, my name is Triple P, Pimp, Prophet, and Priest. And so this right here was our very first introduction video to the 7 Seals Astrology Prophetics series. And for those of you guys who have not seen this video as yet, I will place a link in the description. Again, that is our very first introduction video. How did I get the name Triple P? And that is something that you guys will find to be very entertaining and very interesting as well. I go into great detail about my sexual history, how did I get the name, some of my dating experiences, and the list goes on and on. So when you guys check one of the channels out, just go ahead and look for this thumbnail here, introduction, Triple P, Pimp, Prophet, and Priest. This was literally the very first video that I created. And again, not having any background in content creation or anything of the sort, it was a very interesting experience to say the least. So, and actually, so again, this was our part 1 introduction video, and then again, just a brief, to give you guys again a very brief idea of what's going on. Again, we will be, you guys could find us on these platforms, social media platforms right here, and also you can expect, we are, as usual, we are live streaming now. We are going to be live streaming Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That is when we're going to be live streaming Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we are going to be streaming at 10 p.m. And however, I know it may be late for some of you guys, but you guys are having, have to work and have to get up early in the morning. However, this will be an adult, some of the content, a lot of the content will be adult rated, so some of the conversation may have some profanity and things of that sort as well. So that is why it is pretty much a late night show. And these will be the platforms that we will be streaming live on. Again, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 p.m. we will be live streaming on these platforms. And as you can see, this again would be highly recommended for 18 and older, because of the content will be again explicit, some strong sexual content, profanity, things of that sort, which will not be suitable for younger viewers. So that is when you can expect us to be going live. And you guys will also be able, if you look at the top of the screen, you guys will see that you guys could call in and ask questions as well. That is what we can expect, for you guys to call and ask questions as we create these live streams. So that was, again, this was our very first live stream. How did I get the name Triple P? You guys can go ahead, go back and look that up in the library and watch that video as well. Very interesting video. And then the very second video that we created was, I shouldn't video, but the second live stream was also an introduction video titled 6 Years, No Sex, and Happy. And this also was another powerful video, because this video I was able to go into great detail to let you guys know how I was able to go literally 6 years, no sex, no masturbation, nothing of that sort. And that was something else I found to be was a very powerful history lesson for anybody who may be struggling with having addiction, sexual addiction, things of that sort. That is what you guys will go and see. The link will also be in that the stream description. you guys could find a link to that video, will be there as well. So go and check that out. That is again part 2, the very second live stream video that we did, and this was actually my second video in general. So go and check that out. And then the third video that we created was titled sorry, that was this video here. Apologies on that. That was my bad. Sorry, that video, I think this was actually part 3. But either way, this is like the third or second video titled NoFap 2,190 days. And that video was basically talking about how did I go 2,190 days, no masturbation, no pornography, and including no sex as well. So 2,190 days is equal to over 6 years. So yes, I did go over 6 years at some point. No masturbation, no pornography, no sex, and I was literally practicing NoFap and also the sacred secretion. And for those who may not know what that is also another form of spiritual discipline, whereas you practice semen retention and other spiritual sexual practices that comes along with it. But anyhow, a very, very heavy practice. Go ahead and watch that video. The link will be in the description for that video as well. And so now we're coming to our third video. This is actually, I would consider this to be a part 3, the last final introduction to the series before I get into much more heavier topics, or more spiritual topics, if I would say. But this is a very powerful video that we're about to start today. This video is talking about the title is Will Wet Dreams Ever Stop? And so this video itself is talking about the process of semen retention, specifically NoFap. For those who may not be aware, NoFap and semen retention is two totally different things. NoFap is whereas you do not perform any type of masturbation or any type of pornography, any type of unnatural sexual behavior, whereas an orgasm is taking place, whereas you release doing again some artificial sexual stimulation, such as again pornography and masturbation. That is what you call NoFap. However, NoFap, that is a very good strong introduction level to enter into the sacred secretion. And so the sacred secretion is another different much higher level, if I may say, because NoFap specifically will allow you, NoFap does allow you to have sex with individuals. It does allow you to release. You do have the ability to release on NoFap. That is something that you can do doing NoFap. However, at the same time, you can have sex with individuals. You can release. You just can't watch porn, and you cannot masturbate. That is what NoFap is all about. And then again, the sacred secretion is a completely different thing. That deals with more so of counting the cycles of the moon, things of that sort. It's a very, I will go into it in this video to some degree, but the moral of the story is, if you try to practice any type of sexual discipline such as the sacred secretion, you will try to maintain homeostasis with the body when the body is not releasing any type of fluids, from natural orgasm, things of the sort. You will encounter something called wet dreams, because this is a natural thing that happens once the body goes in remission, if I may say, after not having orgasms for some time. So this is what this video will be about. Another very powerful video, if I may say. Go and check this video. The link will be in the description as well. So again, will wet dreams stop? And for the record, again, I have not, this is the video that we're going to be reviewing. I'm going to be reacting to this video as well, because again, this is technically my third or fourth. I think this is maybe my third or fourth video. This is actually the fourth, literally the fourth video that I created. I've never done anything like this before. This is fairly new, and so I will be doing again a critique. And I have not went back. These videos are I think I would say about around 8 months, 8 months old. These are the videos when I first started, and I did not have any experience with content creation or anything of that sort, and I never went back. I never looked back at the video, so I would be reviewing the video, pretty much hearing what I said for the first time. Maybe my perspective have changed, and so also the viewers that are joining in, this topic is what we're going to be discussing, and so this is what we're going to be talking about. When callers may call in, they're going to be able to chime in and put their opinions in, or whatever the case may be. And as you see, the number is on the top of the screen. Just call the number if you want to just leave a comment or anything of that matter of fact. So again, this video is titled, Will Wet Dreams Ever Stop on Semen Retention? Again, after practicing semen retention for 6 years plus. So yes, I was practicing semen retention for over 6 years, and now technically I would say, I think February of this year, February of 2026 made it officially 7 years that I was practicing the semen retention. So again, for those who might be practicing the semen retention, this is a great video for you guys to watch, or anybody for that matter of fact who may be trying to be celibate and want to have some sexual discipline. This video is going to be a very, very vital video for you to watch as well. So without further ado, let me just start, because I was giving some of my viewers some opportunity to time to get on board. So with that being said, I'm going to start the video, and I'm going to start the self reaction as well. So without further ado, we are going to begin.
It is extremely beneficial for the human body in many, many, many aspects. And I'm not going to really go into all the details of the benefits, because I'm just talking about wet dreams in general. Will they stop or will they not? So again, just like, again, the energy must go somewhere. This energy is not just going to just evaporate into thin air. And that is the mistake that I made on my journey. Probably within a year in, 2 years in, I had wet dreams continuously.
And just for the record as well, this is actually not the beginning of the video. When I first started the content creating, I was not quite sure what approach I would take. So what I decided to do was I decided to take a piece of the video from maybe in the middle or somewhere in the video that I thought was somewhat entertaining or would attract viewers, and I placed that piece of video in the beginning of the video. So this right here is actually not the beginning of the video. This is actually was taken from somewhere in the middle. I'm not quite sure where it was taken from, but it was taken from somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the video. So with that being said, as time go on, the video will actually start somewhere. I'm not quite sure, because like I said, I have not watched the review. I did not see this video. I've created this video 8 months ago, and I'm just going back over it right now. So just keep that in mind. This is not actually the beginning. The beginning will start at some point as well.
Continuously, and I was so upset. I was so upset. I was like, man, will this ever stop? 2 years and 3 years. Yes, the time did go longer. Yes, the time did go from me and Jack having a wet dream once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month. And the time did increase, but it never stopped. That is my point. So my point is, as I became more devoted to the practice, and I realized that yes, I was forced to having to do some of these things, some of these breathing exercises, meditation, and so forth, and circulation and transmutation, and that took me some time. So after probably 3 years in, I still was having wet dreams. After X amount of time, I was unable to stop this naturally, because I did not. And that is the sad news. The bad news is you have to do something. This is not necessarily a lazy man sport. It feels like a lazy man sport because all you have to do is try to do nothing, but you actually have to do something, and that is the bad news. So yes, it can stop, but no, it will not stop if there is no action taken. And even if there's action taken, there will still be some type of release, because the body naturally has a capacity limit, just like a cup of water. No matter who you are, the greatest of the greatest swarmies and whatever, most of those guys may go years and years before they see some ejaculation. Some may not have an ejaculation at all, and some may tell you that yes, there are two types of ejaculation and nocturnal emissions. There's one when you have a sexual nocturnal emission because you had a sexual dream, whereas you actually had intercourse with a female, and then you bust because you thought you was having sex, and that is the most frequent, because again, it is unnatural for especially men to go such long periods without sex, being extremely highly exaggerated sexual beings.
So I was trying my very best not to interrupt because again, this information will come back up again. However, if you guys understood what I was saying, is it is not an easy task. Sexual discipline in reference to the sacred secretion, semen retention, it is not an easy task because the body naturally was designed to release. And like I said, I just thought that if I started this practice, that it would just be my body would adjust to this just like that, but I was incorrect. No, it did not just fall in line. There was complications. The wet dream persisted, and like I said, the wet dream persisted for some time. I would even say a few years before I got it under control, after realizing that it would not stop on its own. I had to pretty much do something to cause the wet dreams to dissipate, and that is what we're going to find out as we go on in the video. We're going to get more information about what I had to do, what made this situation a very challenging obstacle for those who may be expecting and wanting to practice things such as semen retention or the sacred secretion. They might think that they're just going to go ahead and try to not abstain from sex, try to not masturbate, and try to not watch pornography, and they think that the body is just going to just reward them by holding the fluids back. No, that is not the case, and that is what I'm talking about now. I had to learn the hard way. So let me get right back to the video.
And then the second type of nocturnal emission is basically a clear substance, whereas over time, again, swamis and great gurus will also tell you, monks could even tell you that this thing could happen even to them. And the reason that they last so long is because most of those guys, they do not live in the real world. Not the real world, but they do not live in society like the average Joe lives. They do not live in whereas the club is there. They don't live where YouTube, and they don't live where bitches and hoes be walking the streets. Most of these guys who practice this, and you see them go 5 years, 6 years, and whatever, and so forth, a lifetime without ejaculation, they live in the mountains. They live, and that is what they do all day, every day, pray, meditate, chant, all day. I do it too, but I'm saying to you, I still get exposure to females. Still get exposure to cheeks. I still see half naked women walking down the street. For example, let me give you guys.
So yeah, this is a very long introduction. This is the first time seeing this video. I didn't think it would go this long because again, this is not the very beginning of the video. But like I was saying again, for those who are practicing the semen retention, sacred secretion, I am talking about. You may watch videos about the gurus and those different monks and swamis. They may talk about semen retention and how they're able to retain semen for X amount of years and so forth. But again, most of those guys, like I said, they do not live among society like the average individual. They are not bombarded with videos, advertisements. They're not seeing uh, naked women, half-dressed women walking. Uh, they're not being. Most of those guys are not exposed to a lot of sexual, uh, strong sexual atmospheres, like I said, such as the club and places like that. So it's more easier, if I may say, to abstain from having just strong sexual desires being built up if you're living in the mountains, sitting under the Bodhi tree. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying that that is what we're talking about. The difference between someone living in society where they're being exposed to a lot of advertisements, seeing naked women pretty much for the most part everywhere they go. That is a challenge. That is a challenge for the average normal person. However, at the same time, like I said, monks and swamis and gurus, they tend to live more in an isolated environment or more controlled environment where they are able to actually abstain, if I may say, from having so much exposure that may lead to nocturnal emissions and also may lead to involuntary nocturnal emissions or releases because again of having so much sexual uh, content, seeing so much of that sexual energy being built up. Those guys don't have that same problem like most individuals may have in the real world. I mean, they live in the real world too, but in normal society, if I may say, being exposed to just the cultures and so forth, most of those guys again are in isolated or in very controlled environment, if I may say.
Guys, a story. This is a story that just recently happened the other day. I was inside a store. I was leaving a store, and two young ladies were walking in. Two bodies. I mean, two bodies. You know what I'm saying? And from my perspective, I'm talking about 8.5, 9s. You know what I'm saying? So two bodies. They was coming by, and I was about to leave the store, and I could have left before them. But when I saw them coming, I decided to wait. I said, "Man, I have to see these coming." Was coming to the door, and I waited, and I was looking at these girls from that's head to toe, and the security, he saw them coming too. And he gave me the look, because most guys say when they see something, another guy sees something, he's like, he gave me the look too, like, "Whoa, you see this?" You know what I'm saying? And I say, "Yeah, I see it. You know what I'm saying?" And so they walk inside the door, and then after that, shortly after that, they walk by, and I let them walk by, and I did a double take, and I had to get a little view of the back. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
So this is officially the beginning of the video. Like I said, I was starting the video somewhere in the middle, so that is what you could expect. Some of the content you could expect coming up sometime in the video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Triple P, TRIPPLE.P, and I am your astrology pimp, your astrology prophet, and your astrology priest. And today's 7 Seers Astrology Prophetics video topic will be, will wet dreams ever stop? And before I give you guys the answer, I would like to let you guys know that I have changed locations. I'm at the very end of the same beach, but I had to change location because I was getting a lot of difficulties, a lot of interruptions, sound quality, a lot of wind. Hopefully this is much better. But again, not too far from the last location. But anyhow, with that being said, to answer you guys' question,
Just for the record, I was so disappointed that I had to move from that location because I really loved that spot so much. The spot was beautiful and everything. This is a nice spot too as well. But however, I was having a problem whereas I was getting sometimes viewers would come by, people would walk by and then they would hear me talk and then they would want to hear what I'm talking about and they would stop and all of that. And sometimes I would admit I was somewhat uncomfortable because of the content that I was talking about. See, these very first videos, these are not These are very light subject matters, if I may say. I talk about, like I said, astrology. I talk about uh, relationships, different things of that sort, spirituality. But at the same time, when I'm talking about dating and things of that sort, I use a lot of profanity, and I talk about women, I talk about men, I talk about sex, and so the conversation is very, very, very heavy. So I felt really uncomfortable, especially when I'm talking about relationships and women, and I'm putting, some red pill information out there, and individuals are, coming by, they're listening and they're watching and they're trying to see what I'm saying and all that. So it was somewhat uncomfortable. So I had to remove myself and find a more isolated spot to where no individuals were actually located. And just for the record, this location where I'm at, the tide is very, very low. If you could see behind me, there's ground and there's some trees. Usually the water is really way past me. I'm not usually able to go and stand this far. Usually where I'm standing right now is usually covered by water. So this is uncommon to actually see the water here. But like I said, I have to wait till the tide go down so I could actually go out and see and have some place that I could actually stand and still have somewhat of a sea view. So again, I was very disappointed in having to move from that location as well. So anyway, with that being said, let me just move right along.
Uh, for those of you who might have this problem, this video is associated mainly with men on semen retention. I assume women also will have this problem, but not so much as men. So if you are on semen retention and you have always wondered if this problem will ever cease to exist, I am here to give you the answer. So please, please, please stick around and watch this video till the very end, because I'm going to try my very best to give you as much information as much as possible. Also, because of semen retention being such a vast, vast subject matter, I am not sure if I will be able to give you guys every answer. However, I will do the very best that I can. Also, because this video is unedited and unscripted, I am going off memory. So basically, hopefully I remember everything that is of the greatest importance.
And just for the record, also, all of my videos, I do not use any script at all. I am just talking off the top of the dome. Whatever comes to my mind, I speak, and I do have some, an idea what I'm going to talk about. But again, it's not in any specific order. Again, I'm not following a script or anything. So just keep that in mind. I'm freestyling, if I may say.
So again, the major question is, will wet dreams ever end on semen retention? And I know most of you guys have been wondering, will this ever end? Will this problem cease? And I will say the answer to that question is yes and no. I know that may not be the answer what you guys were looking for, but I will try to explain as much as I can to give you an understanding why I said yes and no. So there is good news in that answer, and there's also bad news in that answer. However, by the very end of this video, hopefully you guys would get some closure, and you might not feel so bad if you do have a wet dream at all. However, one last thing I would like to address before I go deeper into this subject matter is one thing I must say that annoys me the most about this question, because for the most guys on semen retention, I am certain that you have had wet dreams and you have went online and you have looked online for answers, and you have searched and searched and searched, and you have maybe found some answers, but the answers you may have found may not be as concrete. So, like I said, the reason I'm making this video is because I too, once back in the day, have wondered about this question. I felt really bad when I have had wet dreams as also as well. Now, my pet peeve is there's a lot of gentlemen, there's a lot of young men, if I may say, on YouTube that
Before I say what my pet peeve was, when I was actually starting out on this sacred secretion semen retention journey, this really bothered me for real because there were so many guys coming on YouTube and coming on different channels and platforms talking about semen retention and sacred secretion and all the stuff they was talking about. And I was trying to find out, will wet dreams ever stop? I wanted to find out, how could I, resolve this problem? And I was getting all of these answers, and then everybody's at the end they still kind of gave some type of roundabout answer. So I was very, very upset about that. That is what I'm going to talk about right here. But I want you guys to know that I really, really was upset.
there may be a title, the video title may be "How to Stop Wet Dreams," and that may be the answers that you may be looking for. And when you click on the video, most of these guys will tell you, some of the advice they will tell you, such as take cold showers, exercise, uh, sleep naked, sleep on your back, don't eat too late at night, don't eat too much heavy food, because the food, affects the prostate. Try not to avoid too much sexual media before bed. And the list goes on and on and on and on. However, my pet peeve is that when these guys make these videos and they have the clickbait and they tell you how to stop wet dreams, you click on the video and you're hoping to get some type of answer or some type of closure. And that is great that these guys are giving you guys a lot of information about method.
And just for the record, some individuals might be watching this and they may hear the term clickbait, but they may not be quite sure what clickbait is. Clickbait is basically and I hate clickbait. I cannot. That's another thing I hate. Individuals having some title, talking about, if you do this or if you watch this or whatever, whatever. And when you watch the video, when you click on the video is misleading. At least the title was misleading. The title gave you the impression that you would learn about this or this is what the video will be about, and the video was actually not, the answer was not in the video, or it was just a big misleading title. That is what clickbait is called, and that is another thing I hate as well. Clickbait, individuals wanting you to watch something, but they, and when you watch the video, you watch the whole video thinking that maybe the answer might be at the end, and there was no answer at all. So I think that is a very, very low grade behavior as well. Clickbait.
And techniques, how to pretty much subside wet dreams. But if you watch the videos carefully, somewhere in the video, the guys will still say that they have not had a wet dream for some time. They still will admit and say that, yes, it's been a while since I've had a wet dream, and yes, it's been 6 months, whatever the case may be, almost a year or whatever, until the last time I had a wet dream. However, that was not, the video title was "How Do I Stop Wet Dreams?" But again, a lot of it is cap and clickbait, if I may say. So with that being said, you may ask, why should I listen? Why should you listen to?
So that's what I'm talking about. What I said was that individuals would say on the video how they overcame wet dreams, how did they stop having wet dreams, things of that sort. That would be the title, and then you thought within, you said, hey, this has to be the video, this has to be the answer to the solution. And then because this guy sounds like he has the answer, this guy sounds like he figured it out. And then when you go and watch the video, you realize that the guy said that he didn't have a wet dream for 6 months or 3 months, and then he had a wet dream. So he was somewhat deceiving. He gave you the impression, or at least he gave uh, individuals the impression that he had it under control, and then he came and then he actually said, okay, well, I did have a wet dream after 3 months or after 6 months or whatever the case may be. So the title was totally misleading. He did not, the individuals did not say, oh, I did not have a wet dream over a very long period of time. Most of the individuals who create those videos are for a very short period of time. They're talking about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, and so forth and so on. So that is what really made me upset to see individuals making it sound like they had the solution and they have done it for some time, but they have just been on semen retention for a very short period of time as well.
To me, why should you take my advice more serious than most of the videos and most of the guys that are actually out there who are practicing semen retention and who are giving you advice as well? And my answer to that is, I would say take as much information as you can. Take as much information as you can from myself. Take as much information as you can from even the guy who have went 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, even a week of semen retention, because the more knowledge you have, the better off you will be. And when a complicated situation may occur and you do have a wet dream, you may be able to answer, you may be able to find closure and not feel so bad about having the wet dream, because you would know what to expect.
So, and I completely agree with that, because when I first started on my semen retention journey, what I did was I looked at every video that I could find. I studied any piece of knowledge online, any type of information that I found. I actually did everything. I listened to everyone, even those who have been on semen retention for even shorter time than me. I felt that maybe they knew something that I didn't know. Maybe they would be able to tell me something that I did not discover as yet. So I highly suggest that if you do decide to go and practice semen retention, I suggest that you do not reject anybody's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because the very person that you decide to reject, that person may actually have an answer that you did not hear. So everybody says, you might hear many individuals saying some of the more common things. Again, you might hear individuals saying the same thing, many individuals saying the same thing, but again, you may get lucky and you may find somebody like myself. You may hear something that was not said by anyone else. So again, I do not suggest that you throw away the baby with the bath. I suggest that you go ahead and actually watch every piece of information that you can from anyone, because these individuals may have something, again, that is going to be very important to your success on semen retention and the sacred secretion.
However, back to why you should listen to me is because if you guys have watched my part 1 video, my part 2 video, and our part 3 video, my part 1 video is titled about Triple P. How did I get the name Triple P? Pimp, Profit, and Priest. And as part 2 of that video is about no, I think I got it incorrect. Yes, no. Part 1 is yes, correct. I am correct. Part 1 was how I got the name Triple P, and I go into some history and all that and all that. And part 2 is, I think it's me stating that how I went 6 years without sex and I was happy. And then there's a NoFap video, part 3. In fact, either way, I'm not quite sure if that's the correct order, but either way, go and watch those videos. And I talk a lot about NoFap. I talk a lot about my sexual history, and that will give you guys an idea of why you should listen to me also. But the main reason you should listen to me is because I have went 6 years straight on semen retention and 6 years straight on NoFap.
Man, that's crazy. That is crazy. Like I said, February of 2026 has officially made it 7 years NoFap and semen retention. No pornography, no masturbation, anything of that sort. no natural releases. So, or natural releases for that matter of fact as well. So that is a very, very long time, and that is why, like I said again, this is why you should listen to someone like myself, because this is something that I just did not do over a short period of time, like 1 month, 2 months, and then gave up or I decided to stop. No, this is something that I committed to for numerous reasons, and I made it more so of a lifestyle. So that is why what I'm talking about, I do have the credentials. That is why you should listen to me in reference to will wet dreams ever stop? Because someone who went 6 years plus at that time when I created this video, again, going that long without masturbation or pornography, practicing semen retention, I think that makes me extremely credible, if I may say.
I'm also a practitioner of the sacred secretion, some would may call brahmacharya. However, the brahmacharya sacred secretion, I started that sometime later, maybe 3 years ago. I'm not quite sure, but it was not as long as I was practicing semen retention and NoFap. So again, me going 6 years straight, NoFap, the semen retention, no relationship, no sexual intercourse, no pornography, no masturbation, I think that would make me a credible source and I can let you guys know what you can expect. Which brings me to my other point. If you listen to those guys who have the solution and they tell you that, yes, semen retention, you can stop these wet dreams in X amount of time, and this and that, and this is that, and this and that, I think that is somewhat cap also because a lot of this has to do with hereditary and you don't know exactly how each individual body makeup is. So back to what I was saying, 6 years straight.
And that is another factor too. We have to take into account uh, hereditary, like I said, the genetic, the makeup of individuals, the capacity that their body is able to go a certain length of time without releasing fluids, sexual fluids. That is something again up to the individual's biological makeup, muscles, and all different type of factors. The condition of the certain muscles that control uh, ejaculation, things of that sort. Certain muscles and how that individual is able to, how relaxed the individual is able to. It's a lot of factors that go into how long someone is gonna take before they release. One individual may be able to go X amount of time, much longer than someone else because of just the genetic makeup of that individual as well. So we cannot just think that everybody body has the ability to go the same amount of time abstaining from releasing sexual fluids, ejaculation, and things of that sort. So keep that in mind as well.
No relationship, no sex, no porn, no fap, no masturbation. Uh, I could so basically I think I'm credible enough to let you guys know what I have experienced and most likely what you will experience as well. And the reason, like I said, it's not bad that you would listen to these guys, that they would not give you the correct answer. However, someone who has went on semen retention for 6 months is definitely not is gonna have the experience of someone who was on it for a year and 2 years and 3 years. So the longer you go on this journey, you are most likely to have experiences that someone earlier on will not have, and vice versa. So with that being said, I think if you ask most of the guys who have videos on YouTube talking about how do they stop semen wet dreams, and you ask them how long have they been on this, they will tell you, 1 month, 6 months, 2 months, at most a year. Most individuals would not even make it a year. And the reason I have went this long is because semen retention is not necessarily a life. It's not something that I'm practicing per se. It's a part of a lifestyle. Because I also again practice the sacred secretion, also known as brahmacharya, which entails a lot more detail and reference to celibacy and much more deeper spiritual practices in reference to bad habits, drinking, smoking, non doing other things that may hinder that progress, your progress as well.
And so, like I was saying again too, I said this earlier. Some individuals they may talk about the semen retention online, but when you ask them how long did they do this, they would say, hey, a few weeks, maybe a month, a few months or so. It's even very, very rare that you would find somebody that actually went a whole year practicing semen retention. Most of them, it's very rare. So don't think this is a common thing. It's very unrare. I don't know for a fact how many people have done this, like myself, you know going 6 years. Some only people I would think of who would go this extreme 6 years plus would be, like I said, monks and gurus and different other strong religious individuals have very strong religious beliefs and systems. But the average Joe is not going to practice semen retention and go this long. So that is what I'm saying to you is, if there's anybody you want to ask, and anybody who may who knows the answer, would be someone like myself. And again, not being someone who was living in a monastery in the hills and the mountains away from society. We're talking about a regular civilian being exposed to women, being exposed to pornography, being exposed to a lot of sexual content all around, going 6 years straight. Again, like I said, also no relationships, no nothing. That is a very huge accomplishment, if I may say.
So, with that being said, I would say that if you ask most of those guys who do semen retention and they ask them how long they were on semen retention, they would tell you maybe 6 months, a year at most. Because in many cases, most men do pick this practice up when it's most likely convenient for them, when they are not in a relationship, if I may say. However, in my case, that is not the situation at all, because this is something that I would consider to be a lifestyle. Again, because of, if for those of you who understand, NoFap is basically the first spiritual level of practice, sexual practice you could practice in reference to semen, and that is basically no pornography and no masturbation, and that is what you could expect if you try to practice NoFap. But that is more or less the beginning or the entry level of these spiritual practices, and then you would go into semen retention, which would lead to a much bigger and a much more discipline is needed, more discipline is needed, because that area.
And like I said also earlier, no FAP is more so of an introduction level to the sacred secretion. Sorry, to the introduction level to semen retention, and then after the semen retention, the sacred secretion is even more of a greater sexual discipline act, because no FAP is basically just no pornography, no masturbation. However, you are still capable, or you're still able to have sex, and you are still permitted to release. You're still permitted to have orgasms. That is the first level, no FAP. Like I said, you're just eliminating masturbation and you're eliminating pornography. And then the semen retention is another level, whereas we're talking about the semen retention. We're talking about having the ability to still have sex, but you are trying to release. Sorry, you're trying to keep the semen. You're not trying to release the semen. That is a different level. That is one level up. You're trying to now uh, hold the semen in. That is one level up. But however, the sacred secretion is a completely different level, because now we're talking about not only uh, not participating in masturbation, pornography, unnatural sexual behaviors, and then we're on top of that we're talking about keeping the semen in as well. And then to add to that, we're now talking about removing other bad habits from the equation as well, so that there is some type of purity in the body for a particular cycle to take place, whereas now you're trying to eliminate drinking and smoking and things of that sort. At least you're trying to eliminate them at a particular time. The ultimate goal is to eliminate those bad habits altogether and not have any of those bad habits at all. But again, but again, that is a whole different ball game. Now we're talking about complete celibacy from bad habits also as well, drinking, smoking, drugs, things of that sort that may pollute the semen, the sacred secretion process. So that is a different level again, and I've been practicing that uh, not as long as semen retention and as long as the I mean, NoFap, but at the same time I have been practicing it for a few years. Shortly after I started the NoFap and after I started the semen retention, and then I came across the sacred secretion and I started that sometime after, but not too long, not far. We're talking about maybe a few months a year, maybe a few months at most apart. So I may have been on, say, let's say, because I started the NoFap simultaneously with the semen retention. Let's say I was, when I started the semen retention, I started the semen retention and the NoFap at the same time, and I went 6 years, and then maybe, no, sorry, I started the semen retention, I started the NoFap, and then say 6 months, I apologize, 6 months later, I came across the sacred secretion and I started it. Maybe 6 months. I'm going off memory right now. I didn't really record the actual date, but I know it was in years later. I started it not too long after.
Area, that area of life, you would require uh, to to develop more skills. And some may ask again, why would somebody want to practice the semen retention? And I would give that this is another question that I think that most individuals may should know, because some individuals they would go and practice the semen retention, but they don't really know why they're doing it. They don't know what to expect. They don't know anything about it. And I think that is also an issue as well. So my understanding of semen retention is the practice of semen retention is the practice of building energy, and energy that you could use, that you would conserve, energy that you could conserve, energy that you would cultivate, energy that you would circulate, and energy that you would transform or transmute. And that abbreviation, I think that the acronym for that is CCCT, CCCT. And I'm not the one who came up with that acronym. Unfortunately, I can't remember the gentleman who I knew who coined the CCT. Unfortunately, I would give you the credit, but I can't remember your name right now. But there's a gentleman on YouTube. Unfortunately, I can't remember your name. I'm so sorry. But again, CCT, he describes it very well. He's one of the few gentlemen that describe the process of semen retention being a process that you would have to conserve, uh, conserve, uh, cultivate, circulate, and transform. And that is, again, the process of semen retention. And again, this is, we're talking about energy, because we all know that energy cannot be destroyed nor created. It only can be transformed into one form or another. So,
So the goal, again, like I said, the goal of semen retention is to uh, develop energy, because once the body does not release these fluids, there will be a buildup of energy that will take place in the body. And this is what I'm talking about now. I'm talking about the process that one has to go through to try to maintain and keep that energy and not allow that energy to be released, because the body is naturally want to get rid of it. And that's what I'm talking about when I said all of that, cultivate and transmutate and all that stuff. That is what I'll be talking about, the process of keeping that energy, what is needed, so the body does not release it, because that is what the body wants to do naturally.
So the C inside of the first C, which is conserve, we are talking about conserving energy, which is the sexual energy, which is one of the most potent energy there is in the human body. Because we all know from an evolutionary perspective, uh, procreation is the main goal of evolution. So when we try to practice semen retention, we are trying to harness one of the world's most powerful uh, internal energies that exist. So that's where the first C comes from, whereas you conserve, and you conserve energy by actually trying to reduce bad habits. You try to get sleep, you try to exercise, and you try to basically do things that's going to actually conserve your energy, and you're not going to give your energy out to just about any and everything. And
So, like I said, the C is conservation. We're trying to conserve the energy. We're trying to keep the energy. We're not trying to release the energy. That is what we're talking about. We're not trying to just get rid of the energy and allow the energy to escape. We have to keep this energy. It doesn't make sense trying to keep the energy, trying to build the energy up and allow the energy just get away. Just like we have energy vampires and things of the sort. Energy, whatever we put our attention to into, that is where our energy will flow as well. So the goal of semen retention, the first one of the first C's, is actually to conserve the energy, to keep the energy, so that the energy is kept and the body could utilize that energy for other purposes as well.
then you have cultivate energy is basically trying to grow that energy, like I said, sleep, and trying to eat proper as much as you can, eat healthy as much as you can, treat the body right if as much as you can, try to the mind process, the way you think about things, try to develop a healthy mindset, do breathing exercises, and the list goes on and on. Again, this topic is such a vast topic. I'm just saying that the semen retention, I cannot basically go into everything in this one video, but I would try my best to touch on as much as I can, And then you have, just like I said, conserve is just basically trying to keep the energy. Cultivate is trying to nurture so the energy would grow just like a plant or a fruit or tree or whatever the tree needs. Water, it needs soil, it needs sunlight to grow. And the same way, semen retention is no different. So when you're
So again, that's what I'm saying. So not only conserving, but you have to cultivate the energy as well. You have to practice a certain lifestyle. That is what I'm saying. You semen retention was the gateway that led me into uh, the sacred secretion, because of actually having to put all of this effort and this energy into trying to keep the semen. I came across the sacred secretion, and that was another different level, if I may say, of sexual discipline. But it takes a lot of active work to actually sustain semen retention and actually try to not just build energy, conserve energy, but cultivate the energy through, again, proper sleep, rest, things of that sort, eating as healthy as you can, things of that sort. And that is, again, after practicing these things, is what led me into the sacred secretion.
trying to retain semen, you have to do certain things that is going to allow that energy to grow. And then next, which brings and cultivate, which brings me to the next C, the third C, which is circulate. So again, because of the sexual energy being one of the most potent energy there is that exists, you could expect that this energy will try to escape, which is actually has to do with the wet dreams, because now this energy that you're trying to harness, you're trying to keep this energy. This energy is trying to escape the body, because technically semen retention technically is not a natural act, if I may say, because the body naturally wants to ejaculate and let fluids out. So semen retention is a natural act, whereas you're trying to go against inertia, inertia, and uh, what is the word I'm looking for right now? I can't remember. Em- uh, Entropy. That's the word. Entropy. Yes. So we all know that everything will decay. Everything must come to an end. Entropy never stops. So the body, it's much easier to sit down and be lazy than it is to do some workout, some work and walk the park or whatever the case may be. It's much easier to drink alcohol, smoke weed, smoke cigarettes than try to abstain. It's much easier to masturbate than to try to abstain. So entropy is by nature, we just basically want to do what's the most easiest thing for us, and we want to do whatever we want to do without any making much sacrifice. And that is just the way it is. So again, semen retention is going against the grind, and therefore you could expect that this entropy will always want to build and always wants to explode and always wants to escape because it's not in its natural state. And hopefully.
And like I said, also as well, I would say that the semen retention or the sacred secretion, specifically the semen retention, is not a natural act. The body was designed to release, the body was designed to procreate, the body was not designed to hold on to anything. The body was not designed to hold on to liquids or fluids. That is why we urinate, that is why we defecate, that is why we aspire. All these different things the body does to release things from its system. Some systems, some fluids may be old, toxin, all different reasons, but the body's job is to actually release fluids. So trying to do something like semen retention is not a natural act. It is something that you're not gonna just go ahead and the body's gonna say, okay, I'm gonna just fall in line. I'm gonna just keep holding on to the semen because you want to keep it. No, the body's job is to want to release. And as we, like I said earlier as well, entropy is something that basically everything left alone, anything left alone wants to uh, decay and break up and fall apart. Anything. So if you try to, not release and you try to hold on to this fluids, these fluids, the semen retention, sacred secretion, these fluids, the body's natural is want to go and break the dam, like a dam. You might build a dam and it might stand for X amount of years, but I guarantee you, over a very long period of time, depending how thick the walls are made, the water's always constantly beating at the wall, constantly wanting to break through. And that's the same way with the semen. The semen is constantly wanting to break through, so the body has to go through a process of transitioning and becoming used to this not releasing, and maybe being able to recultivate, if I may say, or reuse the semen in some type of way, but it's not naturally the way it was designed to. That is one of the other reasons why the semen retention is gonna just naturally, you're gonna naturally have the wet dreams, because naturally the body wasn't designed to hold on to the semen as well.
That will give you some indication also about the answer of what I'm saying. So to further uh, give you guys a much better understanding of this answer of yes, it will stop, and no, yes, it will stop, and no, it will not stop, is what's come to my mind is a scripture. There's a scripture, I can't remember who said it. I don't want to say the wrong thing. It could be Christos. It could be Christos, Yeshua, Yeshua, whoever, whichever name you feel most comfortable with. I think now, don't correct me if I'm wrong. It may not be Joshua, but I think it's Joshua. But there's a scripture somewhere in the scriptures in the Bible that says that someone does not pour new wine in old skins, and that what that is referring to is that particular scripture. Usually, in fact, all the scriptures could be interpreted in any type of way. Most individuals, might have one individual might have one interpretation of a scripture, one individual might have another interpretation of a scripture, and one individual might have another interpretation of a scripture as well. So script. That's the way scriptures are. But one interpretation of the scripture of that particular scripture is that when you try to put new information, new knowledge, new wisdom inside of an old mind, that individual will not be able to capacitate, have the ability to deal with that new knowledge, and usually there will be some breakdown or some psychological problem with that individual consuming that new knowledge and maintaining and retaining that new information. That is usually one interpretation of that scripture. However, to use that same exact scripture, we are going to apply that to semen retention. And that is which is going to give you guys a much better understanding of why I said, yes, the problem will go away, and yes, and no, the problem will not. So to apply that scripture, let's apply that to semen retention, wet dreams, and so forth. Will this ever stop? Uh, when we start the practice of semen retention, the body is used. Most individuals are used to ejaculating, whether it be through masturbation or it be through natural sex. And most individuals do not have not been not ejaculating for a month, 2 months, 3 months. That is very unnatural for most individuals. And most men might say they have never had a wet dream, or they can't remember having a wet dream from a kid, from a child, or early teenage years. And the reason for that is you just expel you expel your energy very too frequently for you to ever have a wet dream. Wet dreams come about when you try to abstain from having sex and you try to abstain from ejaculation. So that is the only way that wet dreams usually will come about.
So that is a very, very uh, powerful fact that you guys should take into great account, because most individuals who may be coming across this video for the very first time, who may be thinking like, wet dreams, I don't have any wet dreams, that is something that I had when I was a kid or something of that sort. Most individuals will say something like that. Wet dreams is something that they can't even remember. So the reason why most men do not have wet dreams is because they are constantly releasing. Most men are having sex on a daily basis or every other day basis. At least most men are having sex at least 3 times, 2 times a week. And if they're not having sex 2, 3 times a week, they are masturbating for 2, 3 times a week or more. So most men are actually releasing fluids extremely frequent. So in order for a wet dream to occur, the body has to be holding on to semen for some time, for an X amount of time. And so that is the reason why it is very uncommon for an adult to have wet dreams who is actually very sexually active. But as I assure you, if you are an adult and you have never had a wet dream, I assure you, if you try to stop having sex for a very uh, decent amount of time, say a month or two, I'm not quite sure how long, again, because like I said, this is a biological thing. You have one person's body might handle it a lot better than one, but however, I assure you, if you go 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months without ejaculation, no masturbation, nothing of that sort, no sex, you will have a wet dream. So that is what we're talking about. We're talking about individuals who are not actually sexually active. They're not masturbating. They're not doing anything. They're trying to practice these very powerful spiritual practices. So this does not apply to individuals who are having sex frequently, who are masturbating, and who are ejaculating, to whether it be masturbation or sex as well. This is for individuals who are trying to abstain from releasing, whether they're having sex or not. These individuals are trying to not ejaculate at all, and that is the difference. That is why you might say, why I've never had a wet dream in such a long time. The reason is because you are having sex consistently, or you're releasing consistently, and that is the only reason you would have a wet dream, is by going a very long period of time without having sex, and the body not having a chance to release itself, and the pressure building up, and then it just has no other way out but to have some type of nocturnal emission in the middle of the night, and maybe you might have a sexual dream or something of the sort, something to trick the mind into releasing the fluids as well.
For men who are saying, "Oh, I don't have bad dreams," yes, you don't have bad dreams because you have sex frequently, you release frequently, and you ejaculate frequently. But I assure you, it doesn't make a difference who you are, how old you are, whatever the case will be. If you do abstain from having sex for some time, you will have a wet dream because your body is not used to holding that much energy stored inside. So back to that scripture, the body itself, you could consider that scripture said that no one puts new wine in a old wine skin, because the wine skin will burst. And that says because the new wine it's so potent, and the pressure and the fumes and whatever, to make wine, that old wine skin cannot handle that amount of pressure. So that wine skin, the old wine skin, will burst. So now let's once again apply that to the semen retention. When we hold on to our essence, our male essence, the energy that we hold, that now starts to increase. Let's say, for example, you are at let's use a different example also to illustrate this problem, this situation more clearly. Let's say we look at a piece of electronics, a circuit board. There are transistors, capacitors, diodes, and all of these things. And these components, these electric components, they all share one thing in common. They help to direct current. They help to direct energy. They help to reduce the flow of energy, and they stop the energy from overpowering the circuit board, and so the circuit board does not burn up. That is what those capacitors are and those resistance are for. So just like the human body, just like the wine skin, when you may have been having sexual intercourse on a regular basis, you may have been, your sexual energy may have been at, say, I'm just making these numbers up. Let's say your sexual energy may have been at 10% before you started to have sex, before you went on your semen retention journey. So now you decided to go on your semen retention journey, and one weekend, your energy will increase to 15%. I'm just making these numbers up, not to be accurate. 15%. So now you have a much greater level of energy capacity in your body that you did not necessarily have before. So now let's say 1 month in, now you have a buildup of 20% of excess energy that you never had before. That is why the individuals would tell you that you should exercise, you should practice breath work to circulate the energy, things of that sort, so the energy can have some type of outlet. And I'm not sure if I did not even finish because I'm going all over the place. Again, this video is unedited and unscripted, so I'm just kind of freestyling as I go. So I did not complete. I'm going to get back to that capacitor and that energy, so forth. But back to the CCCT, conserve, cultivate, circulate, and transform. So that energy, after you have conserved some of that energy, and by keeping it, then you have to cultivate it for it to grow, and then you have to circulate it, and then you have to transform it or transmute it, which means that you have to put your energy into something. And I will tell you this right now, the sexual energy is one of the most powerfulest energies that ever exists. And when you harness that energy and you put that energy into something, a project, whatever it may be, a new project that you may have, something that you may be working on, you might be an artist, you might be a singer, whatever creativity, whatever it may be, your job, whatever you want to put your energy into, that energy will be so potent that you would have extra focus, you would have laser sharp focus and dedication of whatever the practice is that you're putting that energy into. So that is one of the things you also have to do. You just can't build this energy up and just do nothing with it. You have to transform that energy. You have to transform that energy and put that energy into something productive. That is why, again, the exercising, all of that is designed to somewhat relieve the body and get rid of some of that excess buildup. Some individuals, like I said, they would recommend cold showers. Cold showers is not for me. And some individuals also would recommend try not to eat foods that are extremely spicy. That is also not for me.
So, I think you guys, hopefully, you guys are starting to see now. It takes a lot of effort to keep this energy from exploding and getting away from the body. That is why I said again, uh, cultivate, circulate, all these different things. And now we're talking about transformation. We have to transform that energy. I can't remember the guy who came up with this sexual transformation. I can't remember the name. It was a book as well. The guy made a book. Really can't remember the name of the guy. But however, basically, energy. Scientists. I think it was Einstein. All those guys. Energy could be created. It cannot be created. It cannot be destroyed. So this semen is also energy as well. So if you try to keep on to this energy, you try to hold on to this energy, you have to find some way to transmute that energy. That is why it's called sexual transmutation. You have to take that energy and put that energy into something as well. You have to put that into your work. You have to put that into your craft. You have to find some type of outlet for that energy to be released into. That is why you may see some individuals when they actually have sex quite a bit frequently, they are not so motivated because the body does not have that raw power, that raw energy that we need. And for example, let's say for example you guys know who let's say for example you have not had sex for some time, or if you are not masturbated for some time, you feel really energized, you feel really wired. You know what I'm saying? You feel really pumped, like, you know what I'm saying? If you go and talk to a female uh, after just having sex versus going a month without having sex, you're gonna have a different type of drive. You're gonna have a different type of feeling towards that female. The way you express yourself, the way you look at her, the energy that you have is gonna be completely different. You're gonna have more of an animalistic type of aura, animalistic type of energy. So again, practicing semen retention and the sacred secretion, things of that sort, you have to put that energy into something. If you're an artist, you're gonna have to start to create something. You're gonna do some painting, some drawing, some sculptures, or whatever it may be. If you sing some songs, whatever it is, you have to find something to put that energy into, or it will explode. It has to come out one way, shape, form, or another. And that's what I'm talking about right now, having to transmute that energy into something useful.
Because I'm coming from the Caribbean, spice is what we do. Everything must be spice, 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 sugar and spice. You know what I'm saying? Everything nice. So, with that being said, some of those things might not be for you as well. Again, cold showers. I never like cold showers, and if I have to take a cold shower, I will go kicking and screaming if I have to. But I will do it if I have to. But by free will, and I have a choice. No, I would not take a cold shower. And that is one of the things that they would recommend also, that you go and take cold showers also. So again, that is why you have to do these things. It is a must. It is a mandatory. It is a must. So within the first year or two, I would speak from my experience, and I haven't forgotten about the circuit board and all that. But this is all leading to one. This is all leading to that why the answer is yes and the answer is no. So again, when I first started the journey on NoFap and semen retention, I did not necessarily know that much about what I needed to do. And somewhat I was lazy also. I was lazy. I didn't want to do any breath work and all that. I thought it was unnecessary. I thought all I needed to do is try to, hold my semen in, and that was it. I was holding my semen in. I was not doing any meditation. I was not doing any breath work. I was still running after bitches and hoes. I was not watching pornography per se, but sometimes every now and then, on YouTube, you might see a lady, attractive lady, or even in the real world, you might see a lady that's attractive, and you might overly exaggerate your stare, you might overly your imagination might kick in, and that's what they would call edging. And edging is also practiced, and some individuals may recommend that you edge. Edging also would entail that you masturbate until the point of having an orgasm, but you do not. And I highly, highly, highly do not recommend edging, because edging is also another form of energy leakage. You're just building yourself up for a setup. You're building more sexual tension, and then you're not going to be able to release it. So I highly do not suggest edging at all. So again, like you see, by now I think you guys are getting the picture that this energy must go somewhere. This energy will not just go away on its own, because again, it is a natural act to hold this semen in. It is natural for the body to procreate, to ejaculate, and so forth. And by no means I want you guys to misinterpret what I'm saying, because I said this is a natural act. That does not mean that it is not beneficial, because there are a lot of things that are natural, but they are actually beneficial to us. Medicine is unnatural. Some of the medicine that we take are quite harmful, but sometimes they do work, and sometimes they do more damage than harm. But they would be considered a necessity. We have exercise, as much as we would put emphasis on exercising. Exercise is a great thing. Exercise is a good thing. However, exercising may not necessarily be considered a natural act, because if we go back into time, I don't know if you would ever see, a caveman or a primitive man putting some, bars on his shoulder with weights and some barbells and doing squats and so forth. They basically did all of their work, exercise from hunting and climbing mountains, and whatever they did physically, that was basically that was a day's work of exercise, just trying to get some food. But do the things that we do today, there are a lot of unnatural things that we do that still would be considered good. So despite the fact semen retention may be considered a natural act, it is extremely beneficial for the human body in many, many, many aspects. And I'm not going to really go into all the details of the benefits, because I'm just talking about wet dreams in general. Will they stop or will they not? So again,
And so also now I haven't, like I said, I haven't reviewed this video. At least I haven't reviewed any of my videos. I haven't watched any of the videos. However, I notice that sometimes when I talk, I'm talking ahead of, I'm speaking before I actually say it in the video. But anyhow, with that being said, also, like I said, this semen retention may be a unnatural act. It may not be something that is natural. However, it is very beneficial. So when you hear individuals, hopefully I don't say it, hopefully I don't go into it later down in the video. However, when you see individuals who talk about semen retention, and they talk about having better skin, they talk about glowing the image, they're talking about getting more hair on their face, and we're talking about males right now, men talking about all of these physical attributes, feeling like maybe they've put on some muscle or something of that sort. And so from what I understand is that what happens, what makes that, why it's beneficial, is because the amount of energy, hopefully I don't say this later down in the video, because I haven't watched it as yet. At least I've never seen a video from the first time that I made it, so I don't know what I'm going to say next. But again, back to the benefits. So there's so much benefits that individuals talk about online, about having hair growth on the face and all of these things, and skin becoming, complexion becoming more clearer and things of that sort. To my understanding is that the body takes so much energy that goes into creating the semen, that men do not know how much energy goes into. I can't remember exactly the process, but it's some process like when you eat the food takes, I'm going off some type of vague memory now, it takes 20 drops of food to make fat or something of the sort, then 20 drops of fat to make 20 drops of blood, and then 20 drops of blood to make 1 drop of semen or something of that sort. But and again, I might not be accurate, but I'm just giving you guys an indication of how much energy and resources goes into making 1 drop of semen, because semen is also connected to having a child. So there's a lot of energy goes into semen production, and so semen and sperm production, things of that sort. So it would be only sensical, if I may say, that if the body is not using those resources that it has to make semen and build sperm, it would be only logical to think that the body would start to put some of that resources back into itself, and the humans would say, and the persons that are holding on to the semen, they would say, the body would say, hey, we're not using all of the energy to make sperm, we're not using all the energy. And I thank you guys, the new viewers who are coming in. I thank you guys very, very much. Today's topic subject is, will wet dreams ever stop, on semen retention. So it is a sexual process called semen retention, NoFap. That's what we're talking about today. But again, I thank you for joining in. So again, back to what I was saying. So the process that the body undergoes when making semen and sperm requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of resources. So if you are a person and you release through orgasm or sexual acts consistently, and you don't give the body enough time to produce the sperm or the semen, because it's very taxing on the body. That is why some males, I wouldn't say some, majority of the men, after having sexual intercourse, they tend to fall asleep. They tend to go in some type of stupor, because the body goes through a refractory, I think it's called refraction, a phase where the body has to go to pretty much reboot itself, and the man would usually feel sleepy or sluggish right after having an orgasm. So again, semen requires so much resources, and so when you hold on to your semen and you're not releasing those resources, it is only the logical thing that the body will hold on to those minerals, all of the minerals that it took to constantly produce the semen, so that the body would say, hey, we're going to take that energy now that we had to take all of that energy to rebuild. Now we're going to take that energy to improve the skin, to improve the hair, improve the nails and things of that sort. That is what the body will do. It makes sense. That is why gentlemen, like I said, they tend to say that they notice a lot of significant improvement in their skin and their hair. Even some men, after a period of time, the testosterone rises. After, it doesn't rise forever, but in the very beginning, studies have shown that testosterone will rise a significant amount during the very beginning stages of semen retention. So there is a lot of physical benefits, and again psychological benefits as well, having the confidence being built up from being able to abstain from release. So let me just go right on, because I'm just kind of breaking that down as well.
Just like, again, the energy must go somewhere. This energy is not just going to just evaporate into thin air. And that is the mistake that I made on my journey. Probably within a year in, 2 years in, I had wet dreams continuously, and I was so upset. I was so upset. I was like, man, will this ever stop? 2 years and 3 years. Yes, the time did go longer. Yes, the time did go from me and Jack having a wet dream once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month. And the time did increase, but it never stopped. That is my point. So my point is, as I became more devoted to the practice, and I realized that yes, I was forced to having to do some of these things, some of these breathing exercises, meditation, and so forth, and circulation and transmutation, and that took me some time. So after probably 3 years in, I still was having wet dreams. After X amount of time, I was unable to stop this naturally, because I did not. And that is the sad news. The bad news is you have to do something. This is not necessarily a lazy man sport. It feels like a lazy man sport because all you have to do is try to do nothing, but you actually have to do something, and that is the bad news. So yes, it can stop, but no, it will not stop if there is no action taken. And even if there's action taken, there will still be some type of release because the body naturally has a capacity limit, just like a cup of water. No matter who you are, the greatest of the greatest swarmies and whatever, most of those guys may go years and years before they see some ejaculation. Some may not have an ejaculation at all, and some may tell you that yes, there are two types of ejaculation: nocturnal emission.
So before I go any further, like I was saying earlier, during my journey on NoFap semen retention, I went, when I first started the process, I was uncertain of what to expect. I didn't know what the process was all about. So, I didn't know I had to put in work. I really thought it was just some type of thing that I would just abstain. I, I was delusional. I really thought that I would just say, hey, I'm going to hold out from masturbation, I'm going to hold out from pornography, I'm going to hold out from all of these things. That's what I thought in my mind, and I thought that everything would follow. But I was incorrect. And so, because of having lack of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, like I said, I went through the process of actually searching, seeking, and looking under every rock, trying to find the answer. Will this problem ever stop? And I was unable to find anyone per se who have actually went on this journey for such a long time, who actually had an answer. Like I said, most individuals who have practiced semen retention and NoFap, they have been on it for maybe a few months at most, 2 3 months at most, and very rarely that you would find somebody, a male, went over a year. So I had very little mentors, if I may say, besides watching the gurus and the monks and all those guys. Those guys were naturally programmed to do that because they was, like I said, they live in the mountains, and wherever else they live, they were very disciplined in that aspect. They never lived in the real, I mean, sorry, they do live in the real world, but they were usually not exposed to the sexual content, the pornography, the music, everything else that the average person is exposed to in today's world through media, social platforms, and so forth. It was very difficult. And again, so after, like I said, a year went by, I still was having these wet dreams. I was uncertain, if I was, why it didn't stop. I just thought it would stop automatically. I thought if I put in some effort, trying to put up some type of resistance, I would it would naturally go away. But it did not. It still happened because I did not know what I was doing. I just thought, like I said, all I have to do is not masturbate, not watch any porn, and try not to have, sexual intercourse and try to like release. That is what I thought. But I was really, really wrong. So 1 year went by, I still was having these wet dreams. 2 years went by, I still had the wet dreams. 3 years went by. I think the wet dreams didn't stop. Honestly, I can't remember. But then let's watch the video and see how far it goes on. But I know I was 2 years in, and I was still having these wet dreams before I found out the solution. So that is what I'm saying. It did not just go away. It was something that I had to learn. I had to learn the techniques. Like I said, I wasn't unaware that I had to do breathing exercises. I was unaware that I had to meditate. I was unaware of all of this. I just thought automatically trying to abstain was enough, but I was wrong.
There's one when you have a sexual nocturnal emission because you had a sexual dream, whereas you actually had intercourse with a female, and then you bust because you thought you was having sex, and that is the most frequent because again, it is unnatural for especially men to go such long periods without sex, being extremely highly exaggerated sexual beings. And then the second type of nocturnal emission is basically a clear substance, whereas over time, again, swamis and great gurus may will also tell you, monks could even tell you that this thing could happen even to them. Because, and the reason that they last so long is because most of those guys, they do not live in the real world. Not the real world, but they do not live in society like the average Joe lives. They do not live in the, whereas the club is there. They don't live where YouTube, and they don't live where bitches and hoes be walking the streets. Most of these guys who practice this, and you see they go 5 years, 6 years, and whatever, and so forth, a lifetime without ejaculation, they live in the mountains. They live,
Oh,
and that is what they do all day, every day, pray, meditate, chant, all day. I do it too, but I'm saying to you, I still get exposure to females. Still get exposure to cheeks. I still see half naked women walking down the street. For example, let me give you guys a story. This is
so let me just recap briefly on what I said, because what I said was that there are two type of uh, releases that would happen. These wet dreams would happen uh, under two conditions. And like I said, for those who just joining in, you guys could go back, and the link to this video will be in the description. You guys could watch the whole video and get go back and watch the video from the beginning. But however, like I said, there's two type of emissions that would happen when you try to practice semen retention or the sacred secretion. The first one would happen is from actually being exposed to a lot of sexual content. You're being exposed to seeing a lot of women, watching a lot of it may not be pornography, but you're just watching a lot of borderline soft porn, if I may say, watching videos with strong sexual explicit nature, women half dressed, women dancing provocatively, things of that sort. And the mind building up, constantly building up sexual unconscious things going on in the mind. You may not be aware that these desires are being built up. You just think that they are happening. You think that after you watch some strong sexual content, that nothing happened to you, but there is a lot of that information stuck in the subconscious mind. So after a period of time watching, again, like I said, it may be soft porn, or just watching a lot of music videos with a lot of half naked women shaking and jumping up and down, and a lot of body parts being somewhat visible. Or you might be exposed to where you're constantly seeing a lot of very attractive women, and you're constantly thinking about them. And so over a period of time, what will happen is the mind again will be holding on to all of these images, and then sooner or later in the middle of the night you will have a dream. You will have a sexual dream because of all of that sexual tension that built up, and then you will actually have an orgasm. That is one of the reasons you would have a wet dream, because of because of unprocessed information in the mind. The mind held on to images. You may not be aware that the mind is holding on to these thoughts and these visions and these images, but the mind does not forget anything. And so that's why you will still have a sexual you might have a wet dream because of a sexual dream. You may dream that you actually had sex or having sex with a woman, and then, or male, whatever it may be, and then you actually have an orgasm. That is one way that will happen. And the substance and that substance that comes from that particular wet dream would be totally different from the substance that will come from a natural nocturnal emission. And the second type of nocturnal emission will come from just over the time frame that you have went naturally by trying to go a few weeks, months, or whatever the case may be, months. And let's say you have been keeping your sexual content under control. You've been watching next to no sexual content. You have not seen too many half naked women. So the mind is not really so much holding on to images in the back of the mind. But over a period of time, the body itself cannot hold on to that cannot hold on to that fluid And so over a period of time, the body just naturally will build and build, that tension will build and build and build. That is why I said, for those who are just joining into the video right now, I spoke about a process that you have to, there's a process that you have to cultivate, circulate, and transmutate that sexual energy. And so the second, like I said, the second nocturnal emission will be more of a natural emission that happens to anyone. I don't care who you are. Like I said, the monks, the gurus, they might encounter this at some point, and maybe some guys who, again, maybe real dedicated monks and gurus and all these other guys who really dedicate all of their lives to meditation, breath work, and things of that sort. Maybe it's strongly possible that they don't experience this at all. But however, the body's natural inclination is to release these fluids. So however, the difference is when the body decides to release the fluids nocturnally in the night, naturally the fluids will not be as the denseness of the fluids will be different. The one that happens more through sexual build up, imagination, things of the sort. The fluid will have more, so it could have maybe more sperm. It could be more dense. It may be more white. You will notice there's a huge difference in the texture versus the natural emission would be more like a more clear substance, a more clear jelly, because the body did not, is not stimulated that much sexually. It's a different fluid that comes from both of the nocturnal emissions. But again, the nocturnal emissions, either way, they only would occur when there has been a very long period of time of abstinence and no ejaculation has taken place over a period of time. This nocturnal emission does not happen if you are having sex frequently, if you are if you're ejaculating every day, every other day, every week, every other week. Even if you're ejaculating, once a month, I would say that is still not enough for you to develop wet dreams. You have to go a much longer period of time. The body has to build. This has to build, and say we're talking about maybe say 3 months of abstinence. I would assume somewhere around, I'm just making that number up, I'm just not a factual number, but about say 3 months would be of ample time to say that to be for the body to sustain holding on to those fluids for that long, then you could expect to have some type of release, uncontrolled release, without you being voluntarily wanting that to happen. So again, this is something that happens without your consent.
Just a story that just recently happened the other day. I was inside a store. I was leaving a store, and two young ladies were walking in. Two bodies. Two bodies. You know what I'm saying? And from my perspective, I'm talking about 8.5, 9s. You know what I'm saying? So two bodies. They was coming by, and I was about to leave the store, and I could have left before them, but when I saw them coming, I decided to wait. I said, man, I have to see these was coming to the door. And I waited, and I was looking at these girls, that's head to toe, and the security, he saw them coming too. He gave me the look, because most guys say when they see something, and another guy sees something, he's like, he gave me the look too, like, whoa, you see this, you know what I'm saying? And I say, yeah, I see it, you know what I'm saying? And so they walked inside the door, and then shortly after that, they walked by, and I let them walk by, and I did a double take, and I had to get a little view for the back, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, whoa, man, this is awesome, you know what I'm saying? And it's a Q, he's supposed to be doing his job, you know what I'm saying? But he's a man too, you know what I'm saying? So he's holding the door at the same time, and he's looking back, and both of us are looking back. So, but the moral of the story is, it's natural to be attracted to females. It's natural to want to have sexual desires. It's natural to find the opposite sex to be attractive. However, now that would be considered a very minor edge, what I would call edging. Edging is,
and so my point is that, like I said, there's almost no way around developing sexual desires. It's really no way around it, unless, again, you want to live in the mountains, you want to be one of the monks, and you want to chant Om all day. Om. You want to do that all day. You want to sit underneath the Bodhi tree to be enlightened. But however, if you live in society, you will see attractive people, whether it be males or female. You will find individuals to be attractive, so that sexual inclination is going to automatically happen no matter what you do. Like I said, you don't have to watch porn. You're just gonna see somebody, whether, even like I said, it could be on TV. You're gonna be attracted to somebody one way, shape, or form or another. So therefore, what I'm saying is to you, no matter how hard you try, that sexual tension is gonna build some way, shape, form, or another, unless you maybe have some other challenges that may be hindering. You might have low testosterone, something of that sort. Something may be stopping you from, or even if you do, even if you have low testosterone, you still see somebody who's attractive. You still find them to be attractive, but you just might not have the same sexual drive to, to be motivated to want to, say something or whatever the case may be. But either way, to avoid seeing someone who is attractive is pretty much, it's impossible. So that is also something that you have to take into account when it comes down to semen retention and wet dreams. One way or another, you're gonna be seeing something sexually that triggers you, if I may say.
Any type of lusting, pornography, anything that leaks the energy. Because the energy, again, energy, trying to cultivate, you have to cultivate the energy, and that requires reducing certain bad habits, certain things that's going to cause you lose the energy. We're trying to build this energy, and again, as this energy builds, the capacity that the body has to hold this energy is going to fail at some point. So again, so now imagine that little lustful act, because I still love bitches and hoes. They call me pimp, prophet, and priest. Like I said, they don't call me pope, prophet, and priest. They don't call me pastor, prophet, and priest. They don't call me piety, prophet, and priest, or pious prophet, and priest. They call me pimp, prophet, and priest. And that is the reason they call me pimp, prophet, and priest. So with that being said, it is very natural. It's very natural to see a attractive lady and do a double take and say, wow, you know what I'm saying? And stay off even for a second or two, you know what I'm saying? However, now imagine you do that every day. Imagine you go out your way, you jump in your car, like I used to do. I mean, I was a prowler. They used to call me prowler too. We used to go in the prowl, and guys still do it today, drive around and look for women. And so imagine us going out there, hunting women down, hunting, like you're a caveman with the spear, and you get your knife, and you get your rock in your hand, and you're just ready to kill, you know what I'm saying? So, but I did that also for many, many years while on semen retention, and I did not understand that all of those things were hindering my progress, and all of that buildup that I was getting from looking at these women, trying to attract get these women. I would still get numbers, but I wouldn't call the women. I would still flirt with women. I would still do a lot of act with women, but I would not have sex with them. So I was thinking that it was harmless because I was not masturbating and I was not ejaculating or I was not watching porn. But the little that I knew, that all of this energy was building up and it was going to backfire, because the subconscious mind stores on to everything. So every attractive girl that you talk to, every attractive female that you look at, imagine if you look at an attractive girl every day you do a little lust here and there, that energy is going to build and build and build. That sexual energy is going to build and build until one day you just bust. There's just no way around it. And then, like I said, naturally the body only can handle so much fluids after a period of time. Your well will also naturally have to expel some of that fluid, whatever the case may be. And which brings me to another point. The first,
and like I was saying, also, it's called edging. Edging is when you guys who try to practice semen retention or try to practice NoFap, it's something called edging, whereas you would masturbate to the point of ejaculation, and then you would stop, and then you would do it again. You would allow the pressure to build up, and you would stop. and then you would do it again. You would masturbate, let the pressure build up, and you would stop. And some guys would do that. That's what is called edging, so they could still feel some type of sexual. They feel something sexually. That's what they do. And so, however, that edging is very detrimental as well, because what's happening is you're somewhat programming the body to come to the point of almost having an ejaculation, almost releasing, and then you're stopping. And what you fail to realize is over a period of time that the body is keeping all track of all of those times it came close to an ejaculation, and then one night you're gonna go to bed, and one night you're gonna have a strong sexual dream, and then one night you're just gonna bust without your consent. And so that is what we're talking about, edging. So what I was saying was also, you know, being exposed to all of these women, you know, going out, me and my partner, we used to go, we used to hunt these women down like caveman, like I said. You know, our big rock in our hand and our spear and shit like that in our club. You know what I'm saying? We just go there to try and capture some of these women, you know. So what happened was, after doing that for so long, not having the understanding that that was also being put into my subconscious mind, every attractive girl that I spoke to, every attractive girl that I got a number from, and I only shooting at the best. I hate to really sound shallow, but hey, I'm shooting at women that are attractive. So therefore, the women are usually would be very attractive, physically, pretty, body wise. At least to my standards, most men would consider these women to be. And beauty is subjective. I will say beauty is subjective, but I think that the women that I were usually going after, most men would find to be attractive. So, but anyhow, back to what I was saying. So, not having the understanding of how semen and retention and NoFap, at least semen retention works, and brahmacharya, or the sacred secretion, I was not aware that every woman that I spoke to, every woman, despite the fact that I was not sleeping with them, or despite the fact that I was not trying to sleep with them, I was just getting a number here and there, and I would, flirt with them, and I would talk to them in some type of way, maybe some sexual, explicit type of language, some type of, something to give them some type of indication that I was sexually interested. But however, I would not pursue them sexually to the fullest degree. But lo and behold, I was unaware that despite the fact that I was doing this, I was unaware that I was also edging. I was also still putting my mind close as possible to having sexual intercourse, and I was doing all of these things and not having an understanding that I had to discontinue all of these things, because all of these things were also being a part of the root cause that why I was still having the wet dreams, because I was still playing with fire. I was still going out, I was still talking to a bunch of bitches, I was still getting numbers, I was still just flirting with women, I was doing all this shit, not knowing what the effect was on a subconscious level. Some of the women that I wished that I would was able to sleep with, but I didn't really think of it. Like, I never thought about it to the point where I didn't think, I thought it was innocent, but it was not. So that was one of the reasons what also created this, what did not allow the wet dreams to stop. Like I said, 2 years, 3 years in, I was still having the wet dreams, because I was still actually doing a lot of the things counterproductive to keeping the energy in. I was still releasing the energy, chasing women.
In reference to the fluid, some individuals, I would say that semen wet dreams are not relapse, no matter what, no matter even if it's a sexual intercourse wet dream, that's still not a relapse, because you didn't do it naturally. You didn't go and masturbate, or you didn't have sex naturally. That was something that happened subconsciously because of the buildup of sexual tension that you failed to release. So that would not be considered a buildup. And also the fluids that are released, a lot of it might just be semen, and that's how we understand semen is different than sperm. Sperm is the actual eggs and so forth, the little swimming things that they produce that produce the baby, and that is different from semen. And then you have other fluids. I think that spinal fluid is cerebral, all type of fluids that's mixed up. And then you have prostate fluid that's also inside of that liquid. that is expelled. However, the majority of the liquid is not sperm. There might be some sperm, a little sperm, maybe a little bit of prostate fluid, a little bit of cerebral fluid, whatever fluids. I'm not a scientist here. I'm not here to talk about fluids. You understand? Because, in fact, most men, you don't have the ability to know what's in the release, because it's not like when you have a wet dream, you have some type of you have a laboratory equipment on the side of the bed, and you put a sample inside the test tube, and then you shake it up and you run it through the analysis of the computer, and the computer, the lab microscope, and you can tell how much is spinal fluid, how much is semen, how much is sperm, and how much is prostate fluid. You cannot tell what is what. So, that's it.
That's some funny shit. That's some funny shit. But anyhow, so for those who are just coming in and just watching, I'm doing a reaction video. I've never seen this video. I've created this video about 8 months ago, 9 months ago. I've never watched it. I'm just looking back and seeing what, where I was at, what my mind space was, and all that. If I have any different perspectives, so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a self reaction video, and the topic is, again, will wet dreams ever stop, on semen retention, and there will also be a link in the description as well. You could go and watch the video where I will not be interrupting the video. You can see the closed captions and all that stuff as well. But what I wanted to say was also that one of the main questions that a lot of individuals have when they are on semen retention, they wonder if wet dreams are considered to be a relapse. They wonder if having a wet dream would count as a relapse, and to my understanding, no wet dream is considered a relapse, because you did not voluntarily masturbate, you did not voluntarily have sex, and you did not voluntarily release. Those actions came about involuntarily because of the body not having, or you not having, the proper the ability to hold on to it for one reason or another, or it's just that the body cannot contain the fluids any longer, because the body is only able to retain the fluids, like I said, like a cup. You could only pour so much fluids and liquids into a cup before the cup overflows. And so the same thing would apply to the semen as well. If you hold on to the semen through a practice of semen retention, brahmacharya, the sacred secretion, the body naturally will find a way to release it once the fluids has reached the capacity and the well is overrun. So again, no wet dreams would be considered they do not count as relapses. It's not like an alcoholic or somebody who, if you are an alcoholic and then you wanted to stop, you're not even an alcoholic, but let's say you just wanted to stop drinking. That's use a lesser term. You wanted to stop drinking, or whatever it may be. You wanted to stop smoking, or you wanted to stop drinking. Whatever habit you may have, you may wanted to stop eating junk food, and so that would be the same as if you wanted to stop drinking, but you went by the bar, and then you looked in the window and you saw the rum on the shelf, and then you had a dream about drinking, or you saw somebody smoking some weed or whatever, and then you went to bed and you had a dream about smoking weed, a cigarette, or whatever it may be. That is the same thing on semen retention, because you may have thought about having sex, you may wanted to have sex, or you may wanted to release, but when you went to bed, it's just your body and your subconscious mind decided to get rid of some of that buildup. So it's not really the alcoholics or the fault that they had a dream for dreaming they wanted to drink because they saw somebody drinking, or they saw frequent advertisement about alcohol. That's not their fault that they had a dream about alcohol. That is something that happens without their consent. So no, wet dreams are not counted as relapses.
That's a waste of time trying to figure out what's in the fluid, how much is what, because the body knows exactly. Only the body knows what needs to be expelled, because sperm also lives for X amount of time, and sperm does not live forever. Sperm moves from one part of the body where it's held until it's matured, and then it moves to a different part. And so when the sperm also is not used and they die in their lifespan and they die and they some may be deformed, some may not be healthy. Those sperm may die away, and some of those sperm might also be released inside of the fluid that is released, and it may not necessarily be healthy sperm, so you don't have to worry about losing any sperm count, anything of that sort. It is not that much to talk about. However, you will, or you may, or you could lose some type of energy after having a sexual a semen retention, sorry, a sexual nocturnal emission. You will lose some energy, but it's not going to be that much energy. The energy that you lose is not going to be like the same amount of energy that you would lose if you did actually masturbate and ejaculated. It's not going to be the same amount of energy, the same energy that if you had intercourse with a female or male and then you ejaculated and you had an orgasm. That is not the same type of energy. You may lose a little bit. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, you may feel a lot better because now that excessive fluids or that energy is released like a valve, that kind of may have took away some pressure from you. So that may be a benefit. So which brings me to another point. You can, instead of looking at having a wet dream as a bad thing, you could now see where having a wet dream as actually a beneficial thing. Whereas if you have a wet dream, you could see it now as your energy has increased. Because the only
So let me just go back 2 steps. So another thing, like I said, also there are a lot of individuals who practice NoFap, not NoFap, sorry, semen retention, the sacred secretion, brahmacharya. They tend to worry and they tend to ask about what's in the fluid. Is the fluid sperm or what's in the fluid? Like I was saying again, there's a mixture of all type of fluids, semen, spinal, cerebral fluids, all type of different fluids, maybe some sperm. But I'm not a scientist, like I said. I don't have any laboratory on the side of the bed, trying to mix the sample up to say, hey, this sample has X amount of semen, this sample has X amount of sperm. You don't have to worry about that. Whatever is released, the body knows exactly what needs to be released. Like I said, also there may be some sperm, deformed sperm, things of that sort that the body naturally wants to get rid of. That is why I said the process, the body itself is in control, and the body knows exactly what needs to get rid of, what needs to be expelled. So you cannot really stop it. You know what I'm saying? So don't worry about how much sperm and how much semen. That is kind of a waste of time. Trying to waste your energy trying to figure that out as well. And also, like I was saying here as well, there's a big difference. Yes, you will lose energy because individuals wonder if the release from the wet dream, how much energy you will lose. You will lose some energy because the body is releasing the energy. However, at the same time, the amount of energy that the body loses based on the nocturnal emission is not going to be as strong as the sexual release, because when you do have a sexual act and you do have an orgasm, you do have you do ejaculate, there is a major difference between an ejaculation through sex versus an ejaculation through a nocturnal emission. So the nocturnal emission will take some taxation on the body. It will be some small you may feel it the next day. You may feel maybe a little slight lag or whatever the case may be. In fact, like I said, also it could actually work in your favor because the body kind of maybe got rid of some of that excess tension, and you may actually feel a lot better. But the difference is a big difference between having sexual intercourse and ejaculating versus the nocturnal ejaculation is nowhere near to be compared to the amount of energy that you will lose. There are two different type of releases. The body releases everything during sexual intercourse. ejaculation because the body is trying to procreate and have a child. And when the nocturnal emission happens, it is more so of a valve being open and only allowing a certain amount of fluids to be released. It may feel that way to you. You may feel like you have produced the same intensity, but the body does not release the same amount of fluid, so therefore it would not be the same amount of taxing the body for the resources that makes the semen, that makes the sperm, that makes all of these things. So the energy deficit will be far less during the nocturnal emission through a wet dream versus an ejaculation through sexual intercourse.
The way you would have a wet dream is if your energy has built up and it has far exceeded the capacity that the carrier, the vessel, which is your body, has the ability to maintain or to hold or to sustain. So again, back to the example of the wine, the new wine in old skins and the circuit board. So just like the circuit board, when you apply the proper amount of voltage to a circuit board, the appliance, the electrical appliance, will run smoothly. It will work perfect. There will not be any issues at all. However, if you decide to apply more energy to that circuit board, then you could get some type of shortage, a glitch, or even a burn out. Some components may actually catch a fire or just blow up or burn up, and that is the same exact thing what happens to the body on semen retention. The energy will increase and increase and increase, and you have no other choice than to practice some sort of discipline to eliminate that problem. So back to a statement that I was talking about earlier, I said that when you, again, most men may not have ever had a wet dream, or they might not have had a wet dream in a long time, is because they do not hold on to their essence long enough to have a wet dream. And I assure you, if you do hold on to your essence, I don't care who you are, it just will be a matter of time. However, it is very difficult to hold on to your essence if you have a female in your life, or you are in a relationship, or you have a side dish, or you have a rotation, and you have access to frequent sex. It is almost impossible to do so. That is why I highly recommend, and I always say that individuals, be it male or female, if you are single at the time, this is the best time to practice some of these practices, because you now will have the not have the distraction that you may have had when you was in a relationship, and because you are now single, this would be the best time to practice these situations. Because when you do get in a relationship, trust you me, it's gonna be next to impossible. And the only reason I was able to last this long, 6 years without sex, 6 years without a relationship, is because, like I said, they call me Triple P, Pimp, Profit, and Priest. And my numbers are astronomical. My numbers are like the grain of sand, the stars in the heavens above. If you count the stars, then you might just get, I don't know how much trillions or billions of stars up there, but if you count the clocks, don't count the stars, that might even fall short about my body count numbers. So with that being said, that is why I'm able to go these times, these astronomical lengths of time, because I've done astronomical amounts of numbers. And
So that's funny as shit. So oh, man, that's funny. But anyhow, I toot my own horn. But anyhow, like I was saying, so for guys or girls who want to practice this sacred practice, specifically, I'm talking about men here, but if you are a guy and you want to practice the semen retention or the sacred secretion, it is next to impossible to practice this if you are in a relationship, because it's almost, like I said, impossible to try to abstain from ejaculation, because you are going to constantly be having sex with your wife or your girlfriend. And if you do have a wife or a girlfriend and you decide to practice something like this, you're going to have to do a lot of explaining to what it is that you're trying to do. You're going to have to put a lot of energy and effort into trying to, if I may say, convince or persuade your partner the benefits of this, because in most cases they are going to take some type of an offense, because if you are a guy and you were having sex with your girlfriend all the time, and you were ejaculating, you were busting every time, and then now all of a sudden you're trying to not release, that is not gonna go off too well unless you have a female that is very understanding of what it is that you're trying to do. And so therefore you would need to be first and foremost extremely knowledgeable about what it is that you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it. And so that is why I said the best time to practice some of these acts of semen retention and the sacred secretion and brahmacharya is when you are single. Because when you are single, you will not have the sexual distractions of a female. You do not have a girlfriend, you do not have a wife, you don't have anybody to sleep with. So it would be much easier for you to try to practice sexual discipline before you get into your next relationship. And when you get into your next relationship, you would be able to say, hey, this is something that I practice, this is something that I do, this is the benefits, this is why I do it, blah, 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 blah. And the female is most likely to go along with it if you came into the relationship that way versus trying to be in a relationship for X amount of time and then try to switch the program up on the bitch. No, the bitch would say, you are mad. No, you are maybe cheating on me, you're having another female or something of that sort. It will not go as you think. So that is why I highly suggest to all men that are trying to considering semen retention or sacred secretion, the best time to practice these things is when you are single and you are in a relationship. Because if you try to do something like this when you are in a relationship, and especially if you are in a long-term relationship and you try to do something like this, it may be met with some type of resistance. So again, the best time to do something like this would be when you're single, and then when you enter the next relationship, it will be a lot easier for you to stand on it and actually carry out the acts of having the sexual discipline. You may have to learn to practice tantric sex, things of that sort with your partner, and so you and your partner will be able to have more so body orgasms and things of that sort, and you will not so much rely on just the physical ejaculation that you were once used to. So that is something that you're going to have to learn over a period of time. That is something that's not going to just happen or be accepted by your partner very easily. In most cases, your partner is going to have some type of rejection, or they're going to put up some type of resistance.
So, like I was saying again, if you went on semen retention for the first time and your energy might have been at 10%. After a week, it might have risen to 5%. And then let's say when you reach a month, your energy is at 20%. And then you had your first orgasm, your first wet dream. This is where the answers, I'm gonna start giving you guys some of the answers. All that simply means is now you have grown. So do not look at wet dreams as a bad thing. In fact, you should look at it as you are growing. It's like a tree. It's like, it's like some crabs. I'm on the beach right now. Some animals, they have to shed and they find new shells. I don't know what they do. They get new shells, but they can't live in the same shell forever. Snakes shed their skin and they shed so they could so they could continually grow. And that is the same thing with semen retention. It's just simply let you know that you have grown energetically. You are now building your sexual energy, and however now it instead of being sad about it, all it's telling you is now it's time for you to practice more. You have to practice. It's obviously you're conserving it. That is the reason it grew and you bust. So and you may have cultivated it also, you've been trying to cut back, you cut back on some stuff, on some bad habits, and that is one reason. Excuse me, excuse me. Uh, cutting back on certain bad habits may also be a reason why you may feel like you have to that energy will increase. So if you cut back, let's say you cut back in a week time, you cut back on the drinking, you cut back on smoking, you cut back on all these other bad habits, then that energy will increase automatically. That energy will have to increase. You would also feel like now you have to release that energy, but you don't have to release that energy. All it's telling you is you need to practice. Now you need to circulate some of that energy more than you did before in the past. You have to circulate that energy. You have to do more breath work. You have to do more meditation. You have to do more physical strenuous duties. You have to exercise more. You have to go run. You have to go on a treadmill. You have to do something that is going to subside that energy, and you're going to have to find something that you're going to put some focus, so you're going to put your focus and your attention to. So that is what you have to do. So for example, like I said, so now you're in 1 month.
So let me just do a very brief recap. So like I was saying, having a wet dream is not necessarily a bad thing. All it's saying is it's an indication that you are growing, that your energy has grown. And like I said, consider yourself like a vessel or some type of electric circuit, whereas now the energy has increased, the voltage has increased. Let's say you are a capacitor or resistor or something of the sort, was capable of only handling X amount of power. And so now when you go on semen retention and you go on sacred secretion, that power that you once was able to carry will increase. So the body is going to now be a lot more energetic, and it's going to have a lot more energy. And so now that energy is going to have to try to find a way to release itself. So now, like I said, if you are a guy and you have not had a wet dream in years, and you cannot remember the last time you had a wet dream, is because you are constantly releasing. The body has not been given a chance to build up that energy for that wet dream to happen. So when you have a wet dream, it is an indication that you are now having an excess of energy, and the body is no longer able to hold on to the capacity that has grown within you. So therefore, all this is saying is now you are cultivating the energy. Now you have to circulate the energy, and now you have to transmute that energy by finding other ways so that energy could be transmuted in the body, into your craft, into your goals, your dreams, whatever it may be that you're trying to pursue. You have to put that energy into something external, exercise, like I said, a craft, singing, drawing, being creative, whatever it may be. That energy must go somewhere, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So that energy that you first started out with, like I was about to talk about, will increase. So having the wet dream is not necessarily a bad thing. All it is saying is time that you need to practice some more activities so that energy cannot escape.
You have done 1 month, and after 1 month, that practice, now you had your first nocturnal emission. 1 month. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna again. So let's say you never meditated. You never did no exercise. You never did any breath work. After 1 month, you had your first nocturnal emission. So now what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna start 1 or 2 of those practices, even if it's one. So let's say you started the breathing exercise, and then you started the breathing exercise, and what's gonna happen is, now that you implemented one thing, now what's gonna happen is, now your energy is gonna be, you're gonna be able to handle that capacity, that level of energy. However, as time go on, now as your energy increase, again, now you're going to have another nocturnal emission, probably a month, two instead of 1 month. Now it's going to be 2 months later down the line. So now you had one 2 months down the line. So what you're going to have to do now is you're going to have to actually implement either a longer breath work. So now maybe you did breath work for 5 minutes in the past, and that was what you used to actually help you to make it for you did 5 minutes and you made it to you didn't do anything. Sorry, you didn't do anything before. No meditation, no breath work, no exercise, but you made it 1 month naturally before you had your first nocturnal emission, and then after that you started to do 5 minutes worth of breath work. Now that will make you go an extra month, and so after an extra month you're gonna be good. You're gonna be good, and then you're gonna have another next nocturnal emission, because again all that is telling you is now you are growing, and your body is now exceeding more than what you uh, what you are capable of handling at the time. So now 2 months in, now you have to add uh, 15 minutes of breath work, and then you will see that nocturnal mission will extend to 3 months, and after 3 months now you might have to go 20 minutes of breath work, and then as your internal energy continues to increase, you would now have to go. Now you might have to add some exercise to that equation. Because I'm gonna move right now. You might have to add some exercise to that equation, and that exercise is what's going to further prolong. That is going to prolong your ability. Now instead of going 2 months, now you added the exercise. You're going to go 3 months now. It's going to be 3 months until you have your next orgasm. And so I hope you're starting to see the picture here. So as the energy increase, you're going to stop the wet dreams. Yes, the wet dreams will stop. That is why I said the answer is yes and no. The wet dreams will stop. However, as the energy continues to increase and continue to grow within yourself, then you can expect eventually that you will have some sort of nocturnal emission. And so now like I said, you started over 5 minutes of breath work. Now you're doing 20 minutes of breath work. Now you're doing 20 minutes of exercise, walk, or whatever it may be. Now you're putting energy into focus on some type of purpose, some type of goal, or something of that sort. Now you are transforming that energy or transmuting that energy, and that is what you're doing. And as you do this more and more, you will realize that the time it took for you to have a wet dream will go further and further and further and further away. However, because we do live in the real world, it is next to near impossible to not see attractive women, to not, even if you don't watch porn, it's near impossible to not see women that you find attractive, and sometimes your imagination might run wild. And especially, for example, living on the Caribbean island, by the sun, sand, and sea, there's bitches and hoes everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's some bitch or some hoe, basically almost naked with no clothes on. So you could expect to be distracted one way or another. However,
So let me just recap, because I know that I allowed that to go on for a long time. I know what I said most likely didn't make any sense to some of my viewers. What I was saying was that basically when you do start off with this practice of semen retention or sacred secretion, let's say for example, when you first tried the semen retention practice, and then you didn't add any breath work, you didn't add any meditation, you just naturally went ahead, you tried to abstain from ejaculation, you tried to abstain from uh, just releasing, and so you didn't do anything. So the body will go as long as it can before it releases. So the body will go, say, I'm just saying again, making this up, 1 month, and then you might have your first wet dream. All that is saying to you is now you need to add some type of practice to keep that energy from exploding or exceeding the capacity for you to hold that energy. So now you went 1 month without having with having your first wet dream, but you didn't do anything. You didn't do any meditation. You didn't do any breathing exercise. You were not doing any physical work like exercising or anything to let that energy get out the body naturally. So when you had your first dream, you may start off doing, like, say, a 10 minutes breath work, and maybe a 10 minutes exercise and a 10 minutes of meditation. So now what's going to happen is, because you added that those few things to the equation, now you're going to go 2 months without having your next wet dream will be in 2 months. And so now that 10 minutes that you once did, you're no longer going to be able, that's no longer going to be able to work, because all that is saying is now you need to increase that 10 minutes to 20 minutes. So now you're going to have to do 20 minutes of breath work, 20 minutes of exercise, 20 minutes of meditation, or whatever it may be that you're going to have to do to to transmute that energy, because the energy, like I said, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. You just have to find ways or means to transmute that energy. So that is what the exercise is all about. That is what the meditation is all about. That is what the breathing is all about. That is, those things, as you will find out, are going to be mandatory, because what's going to happen is, like I said, after you up to 20 minutes, what's going to happen is now you will have your next minute, you will have your next red dream 3 months away. And so after you have your next 3 months away, you're going to have to up your meditation, your exercise. You're going to constantly have to do this. This is something that you're going to constantly have to do, so that over a period of time, until the body becomes conditioned to be able to not have these premature releases, if I may say. And then you're going to go 30 minutes of meditation, 30 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes of breath work, and then now you're going to be able to go 4 months. So what I'm saying, the more things that you practice, you're going to be able to go longer and longer and longer without having some type of release, because the releases are just simply telling you, they are signs letting you know that the body needs some type of other way to handle the pressure. That's why I said, think of yourself as a cup. After X amount, let's say you were a 1 gallon jug, you fill it up. Now there's more fluids. You need to get a bigger jug, a 2 gallon jug, or a 3 gallon jug, and so forth, because the fluids are always going to build. And then again, like I said, think of yourself more as a electric circuit board. If you put X amount of voltage through the board, the capacitors and the resistors and the diodes, they might be able to handle that type of pressure. But as soon as the voltage or the energy increases too much, you're going to have a circuit board being burnt out. Some of the components, the resistors, the capacitors, the diodes, some of the wires might fry. All different type of things might happen. There might be some shortages going on, and that is what's happening to the body as well. The more the energy increase, the more the body is going to have to find a way to handle that type of energy, that build up. This is energy we're talking about. We're talking about a build up of energy in the body that you do not want to release, but it's naturally trying to find a way to release itself. And that is why it is using the wet dream as a way to release itself, but you are trying to hold on it. So you're going to have to continuously find ways to prolong that habits. So the wet dreams are just simply indications of growth. It's not necessarily a bad thing. All it's saying is that the vessel that's holding the energy is not powerful enough to handle all of the resistance.
Those are very small sexually energy releases. But again, if you do that every day, you lust every day, you go hunt women every day, you sit down on the beach and you watch women in a bikini all day, every day, you are most likely going to have a wet dream no matter what. So again, the goal is not necessary to stop the wet dream per se. The goal is to, when you have the wet dream, take it as an indication that you are making progress. Your energy is getting bigger. You are growing like Dragon Ball Z. You are
Yeah.
getting your power, your energy, your aura, your electromagnet energy is expanding. And the capacity that your body once held, had the ability to hold its energy. Now it no longer has the ability to do so as well. So once again, it is not bad news. It's not a bad thing that you're having these wet dreams. It is just an indication that you need to invest more time into one of the three C's. Again, you need to conserve more energy by not giving away some of your energy, again, whether it be the eyes, lust, drugs, sex, whatever the case may be. And these things are not easy to do. That's why I'm saying to you, I practice the sacred secretion, which is a whole different level of game. So, I'm dealing with a whole different level of practice. I'm going to make a video also on the sacred secretion. However, yes, once again, the energy is just growing, and that is all there is to it. The energy, when the red dream happens, all that is telling you is that it is time for you to practice either conserving more energy, uh, uh, cultivate more energy, circulate more energy, and transform more energy. And I assure you, if you devote your time to doing this, you will. I'm not telling you it's going to stop, because if you understand what I'm saying, as you grow, it's going to happen again. One way or another, you could get it to stop for X amount of time. You could get it to stop for a long period of time. And yes, maybe the monks and maybe some Swami or some Hindu priest could tell you, yes, they could do it, but they live in the mountains. They sit down with their legs crossed all day. They don't see no bitches in the holes. They don't even see nothing. All they see is what they see. You know what I'm saying? They sit down under the tree and they meditate all day. So yes, you could expect someone like that to have very little sexual energies building up. But however, for the rest of us who do live in the real world, that is next to impossible. So again, the goal is not to stop the wet dream.
And like I said earlier, a few minutes ago, living in the Caribbean where you're surrounded by sun, sand, and sea, we're talking about tourism destinations where people from all over the world are just coming to have a good time. Women are coming to let their hair down. Women may not even dress so provocatively in their hometown where they came from. They come to the islands and they are wearing very bikinis with pretty much, threads, if I may say. So you see a lot of women all day, every day when you go certain areas, because you're surrounded by water. Most islands are surrounded by water, so there's a beach everywhere, and you're constantly seeing women half dressed, half naked, in sexy bikinis and things of that sort. So, like I said, if your normal, uh, natural inclination is to see a woman, you're gonna have some type of sexual, be it sexual, be it male or female. I'm not here to discriminate against any particular sex. I'm just saying that, your surroundings where you live, I'm saying people who live in a city and all that, who are not surrounded by water, they would not know what I'm talking about. But those who live on island where there's a lot of tourism and there's a lot of people who come to the islands to let their hair down, to get drunk and just let it all loose. You know what I'm saying? So you see a lot of that. It's very difficult to not be exposed to a lot of strong sexual visual content.
The goal is to take the wet dream as an indicator that you need to step your vibration and your energy game up, and somehow your energy is leaking. And energy leakage could come from anywhere. It does not have to be relationships, females, drugs, and alcohol. It could even be friends. You could be around the wrong friends. You could be around friends that's taking your energy, breaking your vibration, breaking your frequency down, causing you to not have the ability to hold on to the energy because they're weakening your force field, if I may say. And for this one, you look at, for example, if you look at a tuning fork, you take one tuning fork, you hit a tuning fork, the next tuning fork will vibrate, eventually vibrate onto that same frequency. However, when we apply that to the real world, you must be aware, you must be extremely aware and conscious and cautious of who you are around, who you attach yourself to, what type of energies that you have in your life, your friendships, their relationships. I'm gonna walk. Hopefully, this wind doesn't. I've been trying to stay still because I notice when I move, it looks like sometimes the wind picks up and it makes this distorts the video. So I'm trying to avoid as much movement as much as possible. So that is why I'm not really doing too much of scenery. So anyhow, back to what I was saying.
And like I said earlier in the very beginning of the video, I was so sad that I had to move locations from the spot because I had the perfect spot. I mean, the spot was so perfect, but I had to move because, you know, constantly being interrupted by people, constantly individuals coming and listening to the video and so forth and so forth. So I moved to this location, and at the same time, again, this is literally my fourth video. I have not been exposed to content creation ever before. I just, you know, I have no script. I'm not following any script. I'm just talking whatever comes to the mind. However, I do have the gift of gab. I am a talker, so I just naturally talk. But at the same time, this is like my fourth video, literally my fourth video. That is why I'm going back and doing reaction videos, self-reaction videos, and also that's what I was saying. I had to move away. I'm trying to stay still because in the very beginning I was having some wind sound problems, some wind issues, because I did not know anything about sound. You see, I have on a lapel mic, and I was unaware that I needed to get some type of wind guard to stop the wind, and so that was one problem that I was having as well. I learned that I figured it out maybe, I would say maybe a few videos down. I couldn't stop. I was always having that problem trying to stop the wind from interfering with the sound quality of the videos, but I didn't know I needed to get a guard because the sound, the lapel mic that I was wearing, it does have the sound resistance or whatever suppression feature. However, I did not know that it could not stop the wind. So later down the line, I would buy one of those little wind things because I was creating all of my videos by the sea, and you know, when you're by the sea, usually comes with wind. But anyhow, what I was gonna say was, to add to that, was I was saying that the energy that we have, we must guard the energy with the utmost importance, because the energy that we have it leaks. We lose the energy one way, shape, or form or another. It does not have to be through drugs. It does not have to be through alcohol. It does not have to be through sex. We can lose the energy just from being around the wrong people, being around negative people, being around people who drain your energy vampires, people who take your energy and they siphon your energy, and you might not be aware. Every time you go around these people, you come out feeling less than you went in. So be cautious about the energy. It does not have to be loosed by sexual activities. The people you're around takes your energy as well. Energy vampires are what they're called.
And so you have to try to avoid even the people in your life, the places that you go, the things that you do, is anything that could create some type of energy leak. Whereas, because to cultivate energy is think of energy like your body is like a bucket, and a bucket of water or a cup of water, and it has holes in it. When you're on semen retention, the goal is to conserve this energy and cultivate this energy so this energy can grow, and you could use this energy for much more greater and more beneficial practices. Like I said, to achieve a goal, it might be a job, I mean, something that you want to do this energy is the most potent energy that you could utilize to achieve whatever goal that may be that you're trying to achieve. So again, let's say you have friends in your life, they may be bringing you down, or they may not be supportive, or whatever the case may be. You have, let's say you have, I'm just giving you an example about that vibration, because it's much easier for somebody on a high vibration to lower their vibration than for somebody on a low vibration to raise their vibration. And we see that with the tuning fork example, because the tuning fork with the higher vibration, whichever one has the most strongest vibration, the weaker tuning fork will eventually resonate too. However, in the real world, let's say for example you are vibrating at a 10. This is another hypothesis, is that we balance each other out. This is just a hypothesis now. I'm saying that let's say you are at a 10 and you go around somebody who is a 1, eventually vibration wise, energy wise, eventually that person who's a 1 will come up to a 5 and you will drop down to a 5 as well. And you will see that again with the energy, with the tuning fork example. And that is similar to a real life example, because like I said, it is much easier for someone to lower their vibration than to raise their vibration. Because again, because of entropy, it's much easier to sit around, eat potato chips than to go to the gym. Because of entropy, it's much easier to masturbate than to try to get a real bitch or a real hoe. It's much easier to basically just not give anything, not take care of yourself, and not shower, not bathe, not comb your hair, not groom your bed, or whatever. It's much easier to do that than to actually put effort into doing these things. Because again, the way entropy works, entropy will continuously to come back and continuously come back. And for those of you who don't know, entropy is just basically a level of disorder. And so the disorder is always easiest. It's easier for something to decay and break apart and fall apart than to grow and get stronger. Everything in this world will break apart, fall apart. So trying to hold semen retention is going against entropy. It is much easier to masturbate and release. It's much easier to watch porn. It's much easier to have sex than to not have sex. It's much easier to try not to ejaculate than it is to ejaculate. So again, these practices are not easy.
So I think you guys see what I'm talking about. It's not a easy road. This is not an easy spot, because again, like I said, entropy naturally wants to break break down. Entropy does not want to build. Entropy wants to destroy. So like I said earlier also as well, with the tuning fork example, we see that when we take one tuning fork and we have one tuning fork on the side of another, and you hit one tuning fork, the tuning fork that is hit, eventually the tuning fork that was not hit will start to resonate with the tuning fork that is making the sound on the same wave frequency. So the same thing always also applies. That is why they say you are amongst the average of the 5 people you are around. So if you are, like I was saying, if you are a 10 on the Richter scale, I didn't say this example, but it's the same example. If you are a 10 and then the person that you're with is a 2.5, I said 1 for example, but let's say the person is a 2.5 in reference to everything. I'm talking about discipline. You're trying to better your life. You're trying to stop drinking. You're trying to stop smoking. You're trying to have better, more discipline. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you need to be around people who are trying to do the same things as well. Because what's going to happen is, if you try to excel and you are around individuals who are at mid-level at best, they are going to bring you down. That's like the crabs in a bucket syndrome. Nobody wants to see you excel. Some people might want to see you excel, and maybe your mom, someone like that, or a family member, or maybe your wife, or somebody who is invested in you, and someone who may benefit from you exceeding, but how excelling and exceeding in life. However, the average person, they may smile with you and they may look at you and they may, say, hey, nice job and blah, blah, blah. But technically, deep down inside, they don't want you to exceed or succeed and excel in life because it makes them look bad. It makes them feel bad about their accomplishments. So people tend to naturally, secretly despise you and hate you without even a cause. So again, be very careful about who you spend your time with, who you give your energy to, because those people will actually be the downfall to your success as well.
So again, you have to conserve your energy and you have to treat your energy as one of the most valuable things that you could ever possess, because your energy is what's going to give you the vitality, the health, and the strength that you need to get you today and to be healthy and to be strong, and your aura, and again your electromagnetic field is going to help you to prevent diseases, sicknesses, and things of that sort. So back to the tuning fork and friendships and relationships.
And that's what I said. Like I said, you have to protect your energy at all costs. People do not know what is going on. People do not know their energy is being taken from them right under their noses, and they are not aware. When some people may come around you, they may be in a bad mood, and when they leave, they came in a bad mood, and they leave feeling happy, and you are left feeling sad because they did an energy exchange. They took your energy from you by trying to make you feel a certain way, and they got off by bringing you down, and they got up as well. So really be careful about the friends you keep, the relationships that you're in, because these all will cause energy leaks.
Relationships as being leaks. So again, let's say you're operating at a 10 and you have a friend that's operating at a 1 vibration. That friend is most likely going to try to bring you down to their level for one reason or another. In most cases, also, some friends or some individuals may see your progress and they may say, wow, I noticed that you're losing weight. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, I noticed that you're trying to lose weight. I noticed that you're looking good. I noticed that you're not doing crack anymore. That's good job, great job. I noticed that, whatever it may be that you're trying to do, you may have a friend that some friends may, I'm gonna move. Hopefully, I don't know, hopefully the sound issue is not a problem. I'm gonna move away to the sun. So like I was saying, so now some friends, they would congratulate you. They would tell you, great job, great job. It looks like the wind is more, there's more this way. I need to go by the tree, I think.
This is funny. I'm literally trying to avoid the wind, you know what I'm saying? Because the first 2 videos that I created, I had this issue with the sound with the wind, and I didn't know why I had the wind problem in the few videos. The first videos that I created had the sound constantly. I wouldn't say constantly, but it was more than I wanted. And so I didn't know how to resolve this wind problem. Again, like I said, I was new to content creation. I still am new. Didn't know that I needed to get some type of wind guard that would stop the wind on my wireless mic lapel. But you see me right now, I'm literally petrified. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to avoid this wind problem. That's some funny shit. But anyway, let me move right on.
Anyhow, moving right along. So some friends will commend you and they will tell you great job, and they would encourage you to keep going and keep doing what you want to do. So again, like I said, let's say you have made it to a 10. You've been trying to cut back on eating junk food. You've been trying to exercise. You've been trying to, stay, practice solitude. You want to practice some solitude. You have friends that come say, man, let's go to the club. Let's go to the club because that's what you guys do and that's what you always did. But now you're trying to do something new. And so it is easier for that friend to feel some type of way. And rather than encourage you to do better, they would most likely try to bring you down. Just like the tuning fork, they would, or a crab in the bucket, they would not support you in most cases. They would just try to get you to come down to their level. And it's a lot easier over a period of time if you have, let's say you want to stop a bad habit. I had bad habits. I used to drink, I used to smoke, It took me some time. It took me some time to get over those things. And I would say that semen retention, sacred secretion, NoFap, all of those things were the tools that also gave me the self-confidence and the self-discipline to actually stop those bad habits as well. So like I was saying before, let's say you have a friend and you want to stop smoking, whatever.
And also, like I said this a few times before in a previous video, because again, this literally is my fourth video review. However, one of the good main benefits of practicing semen retention, NoFap, and the sacred secretion is that when you start to practice these things, you will end up developing some type of self-confidence, because if you could control your sexual habits, because sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies that exist and one of the most difficult energies to control. So if a man, be it a man or a woman, but if you are a male or a woman, but specifically I'm talking about men, but if you are a man and you have the ability to have sexual discipline, practicing NoFap or semen retention, the sacred secretion or brahmacharya, that is going to build your confidence up, and you're going to start to feel confident in that area, and that's going to snowball as well into other areas as well. And you may actually say, hey, if I could do this, maybe I could do that. And that's what I'm talking about, because in the beginning I did, before when I first started this semen retention NoFap journey, I used to drink, I used to smoke, I used to smoke weed, I used to smoke cigarettes. No one knew I smoked cigarettes. I was a closet smoker, but I smoked either way. Most people never suspected I smoked cigarettes, but I did. I was somewhat embarrassed, if I may say. I didn't. There's nothing wrong if you smoke cigarettes as well, but however, I felt embarrassed about it. So I never really told anybody. I was like a closet smoker, so I just always kept it on the down low. You would never see me walking the streets with a cigarette or standing on the side of the corner smoking a cigarette. I would always go and hide. People knew I smoked weed. They know I smoke. They know that for a fact. They know I drank, because that's what most people do casually. They drink. Everybody don't smoke, but smoke weed. But I smoke weed as well. But over a period of time, practicing the NoFap, the semen retention, and the sacred secretion gave me the confidence, and those things also gave me the ability to reduce those habits down to the point to where I quit those completely as well. So the NoFap and the semen retention and all of these practices, they are like stepping stones that if you practice these things, they could help build your confidence in other areas, and then you could try to stop other bad habits and things of that sort as well.
Whatever, maybe cigarette, weed, and you guys were smoking partners, drinking partners, and you want to stop smoking or you want to stop drinking, but now you have this friend, you are vibrating at a 10, and this friend is vibrating at a 1. Some friends would encourage you, some would say, hey, great job, great job, great job, and that's not a problem. However, you do have some friends that would say, oh, why you stop drinking, why you stop smoking, why, and they would somewhat try to discourage you and make you feel like it's a bad thing that you're doing. And you don't have a problem with them drinking, you don't have a problem with them smoking, because I would say it happened to me also. I used to drink, I used to smoke, I had friends, and I didn't care about whether they continued to drink or not. I was cool with it. I still was hanging out, I still love bitches and hoes no matter what. I still love bitches and hoes, you understand me? So that's why they call me Triple P, Pay, Profit, and Peace, you know what I'm saying? But anyhow, however, I discontinued some of the things, some of my drinking habits and all that, but I would still hang out with these guys and so forth. We would still hunt bitches and hoes, but they would have a problem with me being sober. I didn't have a problem with them drinking or smoking. I didn't have a problem at all. I didn't have one issue with them drinking or smoking, but for some strange reason, they had a problem with me drinking and smoking. So again, just like the tuning fork, either three things is gonna happen. Either I'm gonna lower my standards and I'm gonna eventually drink to support this person, to make this person feel, a friend feel good, or start smoking again, or that friend is going to change and they're gonna raise their vibration and they're gonna say, man, wow, great job. I'm gonna try and stop drinking and smoking myself. That is another option. They could raise their vibration, and you don't have, and now you could be encouraging them to not uh, continue on drinking or smoking or whatever the bad habit may be, or that friend would just leave. Now, those are the two options. Either you will lower your vibration because over time, like I said, it's easier for you to lower your vibration than it is for these individuals to raise their vibration. So you have to be very careful how you who you give your energy to when you're trying to conserve your energy. That is very important. Also, I think I'm going to end on this note because this is a very long.
So, like I was saying, I'm having some lighting difficulties here. That's going on right now. But anyhow, like I was saying, I don't know what's happening to my light. But anyhow, uh, like I was saying, from my experience, I had some a friend of mine, at least a few friends of mine, when I was hanging with these guys and I drank and I smoked with these guys, nobody had a problem. Nobody had any issues at all. Everybody was comfortable with me drinking, smoking, doing all of these things. Like I said earlier, going out, getting bitches was my forte. That was a part of my routine. I love women. That is what I did. And all of my partners, we love women as well. So we would go out, we would, have drinks, we would smoke, and we would go have a good time. We would party, and we would go to clubs, and we would do all these things trying to get some bitches. And so what happened was, over a period of time, I decided to reduce some of my bad habits. I really wanted to stop, but I said to myself, I'm gonna try and reduce them bit by bit because going cold turkey might not be the easiest thing for the average person to do. So I decided to cut back, and so I noticed when I told, uh, especially one of my main partners who I used to go out with and get the ladies with, I told him that I was trying to cut back. I was taking a break. I kind of told him I was fasting. That's what I kind of told him. I was on a little fasting break. And so that fasting break turned into 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So he would come and we would hang out. But he would constantly try to get me to drink. He would constantly ask me, "Hey man, how come you're not drinking? How come you're not doing this? How come you're not doing that? You can't get any bitches. You're not drunk. You're not getting any bitches. You can't, And I still was getting girls now. Nothing changed. You know what I'm saying? It was a little uncomfortable in the beginning. I would say that I didn't feel the same at first. Because I was normally used to being under the influence, alcohol and weed and things of that sort. When we go out to clubs, I would be under the influence, but I started to become accustomed to this sobriety thing, and then I would notice that my friend would not accept that I was trying to be uh, uh, clean, if I may say, and so he would constantly try to convince me to drink or smoke or whatever the case may be, and I would be like, man, come on, and and he would just constantly just remind me, hey man, you can't get any girls if you're not drinking, and you can't do this if you're not high, and he would just constantly, he would not accept the fact that I was trying to better myself in some way, shape, form, or another, and just like I said, I was trying to operate. We were both operating at the level of five. I'm just saying I was operating at a five. He was a five, but now I was trying to raise my frequency. I was trying to raise my vibration. I was going from a five to, like, say, a seven, somewhere of that sort. And he would constantly try to pull me down. He would constantly try to remind me of how cool it was to be drinking and how cool it was to be smoking. He would not accept the fact, and this is someone that I knew for years. This was my friend that I sparred with. He's still a close friend of mine, but however, I'm just saying that just like the tuning fork, he did not accept the fact that I was moving forward and I was excelling, because it maybe somehow, I couldn't figure out why, what it was, but maybe it made him feel bad. Maybe it made him feel conscious enough that maybe, hey, I can't stop drinking, and maybe he was projecting his insecurities onto me, and that's what I'm saying. So you guys have to be very careful about who you really hang with, because if you're trying to make improvements, you're trying to better yourself, or whatever the case may be, you could expect individuals to not be so happy about it. You may think that individual would be, jumping for joy that you're making improvements, that you're losing weight, that you're getting your eating habits together, you're doing whatever, working out, becoming more fit. You would think that most individuals should be happy for you, but actually that is not the case. Some of the people who are most closest to you would be the ones that would be actually the most disappointed that you're actually changing and leaving them behind. So that is what I'm saying. Like the tuning fork again, I was trying to resonate at a much higher frequency, and the person that I was hanging with, my partner, he was low. He was vibrating on a lower pace, and he was not trying to. He was trying to bring me back down to that level as well.
Video. And also religion. Let's say you are extremely religious, and again, I'm not here particular pointing on a particular religion. However, I'm saying if you are in a religion, religions tend to also take away your power, because you tend to give away a lot of your internal power to external things, external deities, if I may say, not realizing that the power is within you. And that power is within you. However, if you give your power away, then you also could be losing energy, because again, that is why I meditate, I advocate you could do 3 types of meditation. You could do, and I practice all 3 of these to some great degree, degree. You could practice breath meditation. That's basically you breathe in, you take deep breaths, and then you exhale. You take deep breaths in, and then you exhale deep breaths out. That is one form, and you observe the breath, and that is one form of meditation. You observe the breath, and then I do that also X amount of time. You can break it up, and then also I do the chant. I specifically I chant the That is one meditation I do, and then after I finish all of those meditation methods, I go into mindfulness or watchfulness, whereas I watch my thoughts, and eventually I will go into that clear, silent space. And usually what I do is I usually use the breath work. I start off with the breathing exercise. And also one last tip is a very good idea when you're on semen retention to practice putting the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and that also will help cultivate and circulate energy when you are doing breath work as well. Because when you put the tongue at the beginning, at the roof of the mouth, what happens is that you create a circuit, and that allows the energy to circulate and go from like a circle from the bottom chakras to the crown chakra and circulate throughout the body. So that is a good idea to practice putting the tongue, roof of the tongue of the mouth when doing deep inhales, and you breathe through the nose, you inhale through the nose, and you exhale through the nose. While having the roof of the mouth, the tongue at the roof of the mouth, you do all of this, put the roof of the tongue on the mouth, put the tongue on the roof of the mouth, and you take a deep inhale through the nose, and then you exhale through the mouth, and then you could practice taking deep inhales through the nose and doing deep exhales through the mouth. And then again, like I said, practice chanting or some other practice also, because when you do practice the automatic, that's AUM, not OM, AUM, you will feel the vibration starting off in the lower region of the belly, stomach, the sacral, sacrum area, and you will feel that moving up into the chest area, and then vibration moving up to the throat and head region as well.
So something else I wanted to recap on, that is a very powerful fact as well. I don't have anything against any type of religion, anything at all. However, sometimes our belief systems also can be the cause of us having these leaks that I'm talking about, because this whole energy thing is about this whole video is talking about cultivating, circulating, and transmutating energy, keeping and holding on to energy. So sometimes our belief systems as well, we are not aware that we are giving away a lot of our energy based on our beliefs as well. So that is something that we need to take into great account as well. The things that we believe, whether they be true or not, they are actually taking away our energy in some way, shape, or form, whether it be mentally, psychologically, emotionally, or spiritually. We need to be very careful about our religious and spiritual beliefs as well. So that too is also something that could take our energy away if we are giving our energy into the wrong direction, if I may say. So that's something to take into great account. And as you see, I spoke about meditation methods, different methods. You could find your own method, whatever method works for you, but you need to find some way to cultivate, to stabilize the mind and calm the nervous system down. You know, we have the sympathetic and the what do you call it, sympathetic and the other something sympathetic. The two nervous systems. I can't remember the second one is, but we know that meditation works with calming the mind, the body, and so forth, and relaxes the mind. There's many benefits. I don't need to really go into the many benefits of meditation because they're all scientifically proven. But at the same time, you have to practice some type of relaxation method to calm the nervous system down when trying to maintain or keep all of that energy as well.
So those are just some meditation tips that you could practice along with other practices such as exercise and watching how you expel your energy, who you give your energy to, things of that nature. So with that being said, again, I think I'm going to end right now because this is a very long video. Again, the goal is not to stop the wet dreams. The goal is to use the wet dreams as an indication that you are growing, and all it says is you need to do more work. And I assure you, once you put in more work from the three C's and a T, CCCT, you conserve more energy, again, not give away energy. You cultivate the energy, rest, sleep, drink water, watch your thoughts, how you think, again, exercise, things of that nature. Just try the healthy living as much as you can, and then you circulate, use some breathing practices, circulate, and also another technique you could use, you practice Kegel exercises. I don't do all of these things, just so we understand. Some of these things I do, some I don't. It's just that I've been doing this for such a long time. I've pretty much tried everything. That is why I said you could listen to me, because some guys, if you ask them how long they've been, they say, oh, I've did it on 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and they was able to stop it. But ask those guys if they made it to 6 years, 2 years, 3 years, they will tell you that's a big difference. 1 year and 6 years is a big difference. And another one last thing is, again, like I said, the Kegel exercise is where you squeeze the area, you know, like when you want to pee, and you hold that area, like hold that muscle like you're trying to not pee. That is the PC muscle. You practice squeezing that throughout the day, and before bed you do a meditation, do a little breathing exercise, because before bed you want to get rid of all of that excess negative or sexual energy that may be being built up throughout the day, and that is the purpose. You have to start some type of night ritual. You don't want to go to bed carrying all of that excess load, work, stress, family, relationships, whatever has been bringing you down, or whatever workload you had mentally. You want to get rid of that at some point before you go to bed. And that's why it's good to have a night routine where it's the very last thing you do. You try to have some type of breathing exercise, some type of meditation. And I know that's going to be very difficult for guys who are in relationships, especially guys who have a wife or a girlfriend and they sleep with somebody. I know it's very difficult to talk about going to meditate before bed, because most guys trying to smash before going to bed. But again, like I said, that is why I keep emphasizing when you do have the opportunity to stop, when you're not in a relationship, this is the perfect time to take advantage of this and not go back and run into a relationship, but practice some of these practices that's going to benefit you in the long run. So again, like I said, you do Kegel exercises, that is going to strengthen the pelvic floor muscle. So when you do go to bed and you do have some type of buildup that you want to have, you might feel a buildup. By having control over that muscle, that is going to also help to reduce or stop the actual ejaculation. And after time also, when you become extremely more conscious of certain areas in your life through meditation and so forth, when you do have dreams, you may also even have the ability to wake up in that dream right before you have an ejaculation, or you might realize that you're having a sexual dream. You might realize the dream is not real, and you might also wake up as well. So,
So that's a different level right there too. But I will say this, like I said, I didn't do all of that stuff. I was just creating the video for anyone who may be interested in practicing NoFap or semen retention or the sacred secretion. So I was just giving you guys a plethora of the amount of things you can do to help reduce the probability of having a wet dream. But I don't do all that stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I've been at this now for, like I said in the very beginning, February 2026 made 7 years. So I don't, my body is very conditioned now. I don't have to do any of this stuff per se, because I maybe might do these things subconsciously. I just naturally have more of a meditative mind, things of that sort. But I don't really practice any real breath work or anything of that sort anymore, because like I said, those were just most of the things that I did in the very beginning when I just was starting out with the semen retention, trying to actually stop the wet dreams. And that's who I was creating the video for those who actually were starting the process of semen retention and the sacred secretion, but who have not really got it down packers yet. So I would say you don't have to do all these things. As time going, the body would just become more and more conditioned, because like I said earlier, in the very beginning, you might be able to go 1 month naturally without having a wet dream, and when you start to practice certain things, you may go 2 months and then have another wet dream, then 3 months and you practice some more, and 4 months and so forth. And over a period of time, the body's gonna just become accustomed to this, and it's gonna take some time, but it will become accustomed to to not ejaculating prematurely or whatever the case may be. And the good thing about this is also, one of the benefit is, when you do decide to go back and become sexually active, once you have this thing under control, theoretically you're still gonna have to practice some type of restraint, from some type of control to not ejaculate. But however, theoretically, you should be able to go a lot longer, because we're talking about men now. You should be able to go a lot longer, because now the body is being conditioned to not just ejaculate. The muscles have become a lot more conditioned, naturally holding in the ejaculation. So naturally, after practicing all the breath work and so forth, the body is going to be able to handle a lot of stimulation without before you just ejaculate. So the benefit of this also is developing a sense of longevity and a sense of control. When you do decide to go back and have sex, you're going to be able to actually have some mastery over the times it takes for you to ejaculate, and actually have the ability, theoretically, you're going to still have to be conscious of this now. Don't think this is going to just happen naturally, but theoretically you're going to be able to just have sex as long as you want, and basically not ejaculate, because you're going to have the muscle control, you're going to have the breathing breathing control down pat, because breathing and muscle control is what controls the ejaculation. When the stimulation, when having sex, so much stimulation in the pelvic area, in those areas, the muscles become so stimulated, they become tense, and that is where the ejaculation comes from. But however, through the proper breathing exercises, you are able to relax the muscle, and the when you have the feeling of want to ejaculate, you should be able to, be able to pull back and breathe and tell and allow the intense feeling of ejaculation to go away, and then you're able to get back at it and prolong that your time as well, without taking any drugs, without taking any pills or anything of the sort. The body should actually be able to do this because it's now conditioned. So that is one of the major benefits, besides all of the physical benefits of having this ability, NoFap, semen retention, things of that sort, sacred secretion. There is the benefit of longevity as well.
With that being said, I think that I covered pretty much everything that I could think of on the top of the dome. I can't think of anything else. Oh, and one last thing. Again, this is an astrology channel. And my astrology chart, I told you guys, in which I can't remember which video it was in. The last video, I don't remember. Pimp, Prophet, and Priest, Triple P, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. I said that I had Leo was in my 11th house, and I had Leo was the house of fun, recreation, romance, and dating. And I said that was one of the reasons I was so fortunate to have so much relations, so much romance and dating and so forth, because of my natal chart having that to be a part of my destiny. And I also had the part of fortune in the 11th house. This is for those who know anything about astrology, would be a reason why I was so successful at attracting women in my life, because it was in my natal chart that I had Leo in my 11th house of my groups and friends, which meant that I would have masses of groups of romance and dating and all type of procreation, other things of that nature that has something to do with my sex life. And also, I would like to say that I have, to end on this note, I have Mars, I have Lilith, and I have Neptune in my third house, which is the house of communication, and I have Sagittarius in my third house. The third house is run by Gemini, and Gemini is run by Mercury. Mercury is the house of communication, and Sagittarius is, if I remember clearly, the 9th house, the house of wisdom, and Sagittarius is run by Jupiter, and Jupiter is the house of expansion, the house of luck, the house of happiness, and so forth. So with that being said, Sagittarius deals with wisdom, knowledge, all type of esoteric stuff, religion, spirituality, all those different things. So having Neptune is a planet that deals with spirituality, dreams, and things of that nature. And Mars is a house that deals with aggression, anger, energy, being direct. And then we have Lilith. Lilith is a house of Lilith deals with rebellion, change, and so forth. So by having Sagittarius in the third house of communication, all it says is that I would rebel, I guess, if I may say. I would rebel against traditional religious beliefs and things of that sort. I would have a strong communication ability. As we can see, I've not stopped talking yet, and I'm still talking. I'm trying to end this video right now, and I'm still talking. So talking about spirituality and things of and knowledge and wisdom and great spiritual depths and things of that sort is a part of my communication style, is a part of my learning and teaching abilities. I have this gift naturally. So that is one reason I can ramble on and on and on. So again, for those of you guys who may not be aware, again, like I said, I am an astrologer. I do teach astrology classes. So as I continue to go on with these videos, I will also share some of these astrological facts about myself. And if you too are also interested in learning about astrology, just click the link or something or something. But anyhow, with that being said, for those of you who stuck around this far,
And that long astrology rant, if I may say, you guys don't have to know anything about astrology, but what I was trying to say was that based on my astrology natal chart, I was born to have bitches. You understand me? I was born to have an extensive romance life, have a lot of dating and women and party and fun and things of that sort. That was part of my uh, destiny, if I may say, according to astrology, and that is something that I also do as well as a relationship dating coach. That is something why I used my history, the knowledge, the wisdom, and understanding to help others as well in the area of dating, spirituality, astrology, and things of that sort as well. But what I was saying was that I was destined to be a Casanova, if I may say.
I really do appreciate the fact that you guys have stuck around, and if you guys have watched the video from, I don't know, this is probably a 2 hour video now. It's a very long video. But again, for those of you who stuck around this far and who have watched this for this long, thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. And please like, share, and subscribe. And go back and watch part 1, part 2, and part 3. And I think my next video, I'm going to make a video on the sacred secretion before I start getting into my classes and teaching you guys more about astrology. And the reason I'm talking about NoFap, semen retention, and the sacred secretion is because those are the things that I did that led me into finding my purpose, and those are the things that helped me into becoming a much stronger spiritual speaker, teacher, leader, and practitioner as well, and which later led me to becoming an astrologer also. So that is why I'm talking about these things, because these things, when you practice these practices, those things are going to help you to find your purpose, and they're going to help you to build character so that you may not falter in the areas that you need to be strong in when you're trying to just develop yourself in general. So with that being said, once again, thank you so much. And again, the goal is not to stop the wet dreams. The goal is to use the wet dreams as an indicator to just simply let you know that you need to practice some more discipline, and in those areas, the CCCTs, you need to conserve more energy, cultivate more energy, circulate more energy, and you need to transform more energy into some other beneficial practices. So with that being said, I would like to end this video again. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video this far. Please like, share, and subscribe. And like I always say, when the stars shine brightly on you always, and may the planets work in your favor always as well. Triple P, and I'm out.
Oh.
So, I just want to say that that was literally my 4th video.
Okay, today we're going to talk about something uncomfortable, something that contradicts every...
Apologies on that. This was my 4th video, and again, being new to content creation and all that, like I said, I do have the gift of gab. I do talk naturally. That's what I do. And like I said in the video as well, practicing the semen retention, practicing all of these things gave me the discipline to grow in other areas. I became a lot more confident in other areas as well, allowed me to reduce bad habits to the point to where I completely stopped drinking, smoking, and having other bad habits, and having more control in other areas as well. So I highly strongly recommend you guys look into the semen retention, sacred secretion, NoFap, those spiritual practices that will allow you to develop sexual discipline that will actually benefit you more and more than one area in life that can snowball, and you can actually become more a better person overall in other areas of life as well. And for the viewers that have stuck around and have watched the videos so far, I thank you so much. I do appreciate you guys watching the videos, the reaction videos. And like I said earlier, I will be going. These are the platforms. These are the social media platforms that you could find me on up top here. You could check me out. There's a few stuff online as well. You could find me here. But however, in reference to live streaming, I will be going live officially. This is literally my 4th live stream, so I've not been at this for some time. I just recently started this live streaming thing, so I will be going live officially Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. These are the days that I will be going live: Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays at 10 a.m. So at 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will be going live on these platforms right here. You could find me on any of these platforms, and you could check out these other channel as well. And like I said earlier, again, the reason I'm doing these channels late at night as well is because the content that I will be talking about will be adult content, and preferably again 18 and older, because this video review I was talking about something semen retention, but however, when I talk about relationships and dating and other different videos, there will be a lot more stronger sexual content, a lot more profanity and different things of that sort. So again, that is why I'm doing the videos this late. Again, I will be live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 p.m. on these channels here. So please like, share, and subscribe. So when I do go live, Wednesday coming up at 10, you guys will be notified when I go live, and you could catch the videos from the beginning. But this particular video that I did today was literally, this was the title of the video: Will Wet Dreams Ever Stop? You guys could go and check the link, click the link, and then find the video and watch the video from the very beginning if you like. That way it's going to be no interruptions. You guys can see all the captions, and this is going to give you a much better idea of what the video is all about. So with that being said, as usual, I thank you guys so much for sticking around this long. I thank you so much. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. And if you are, as usual, please discontinue. Stop believing in illusions, delusions, and hallucinations. Triple P, and I'm out.